But if I can do it, every one of you can too. It started with learning how the system works and learning and developing the infrastructure and the network inside of our Capitol buildings. And so the goal is to be able to, everybody talks about incrementalism. I want to reverse incrementalism. I want to take back what's mine and my family's and everyone's work. Okay, I'm a man of action, and I know all of you are as well. One of that is we have to be all-inclusive. The recurring theme today is we need to broaden this base. And so I see a lot of people that are from different walks of life. I see a lot of women. I see people from the LGBTQ. I guarantee we will get so much further if we let the women speak for us. They can deliver the message so much more clear than we can, more concise to the people that are afraid of what we do. So the goal is to be able to just evolve our minds, open our minds, and be able to open our mouths and increase our movement forward. So, in closing, go on the offensive. If you
shootings at softball games and cruel beatings at their homes, we are literally at war for the soul of America, and education that is our most formidable of weapons. Without the 27 words of the Second Amendment, we become Venezuela. That is the message children must understand now. Children are being taught revisionist history in schools from God to defend themselves and their loved ones. And above all else, teach them that they hail from the greatest nation and not to take their right to bear arms for granted or to relinquish it. That is why I truly believe that advancing the gun rights message must begin with our kids. They are our future. As founding father and signer of the Declaration of Independence, Richard Henry Lee famously said, whereas to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. Our independence and sovereignty must come first and above all else. We must put our money where our mouth is for freedom. We must put our vote where our heart is for freedom. And above all, we must put our knowledge where our children are for freedom. If we do this consistently, freedom now will be freedom forever. Thank you.
You have to raise the microphone for our next speaker. I don't know that this boom will go up high enough, Charles. If he says it'll shrink if he has to. Johnny Rowland, Hispanic American Rifle Association, the legend Johnny Rowland himself. Welcome up.
Well, let's see if we can get this thing up here. Hello, fellow citizens! You know, only the rulers of a country are armed. Only the rulers. Now, I noticed fashion accessories here today by Smith & Wesson, by Springfield, by Glock, fashion accessories to me that are essential citizens wear. That's what we are as citizens to this point. Some of you know me from the Shooting Show television program. One of our longtime viewers has recently put up hundreds of our shooting shows on YouTube. Now, they're there today. They may not be there tonight, but they're there today because the nice people, the masters of the universe, don't appreciate the fact that we are armed. The American armed public is in the way, directly in the way of the global police state. Now, as long as the American public is free to bear arms and protect ourselves, we can never have a global police state. Now, take it to the bank. Now, you'll notice, thanks to my retired side, people ask me, well, Johnny, what team do you play for? And I said, I play for the Arizona Rangers. Really? I said, yeah, I'm still with them. He said, what's your one-loss average? I said, oh, we win most of the time. We do. He said, we don't have to shoot somebody. Shoot somebody. No, I mean, the Arizona Rangers law enforcement support. I want to recognize a good friend, an officer of the Arizona Rangers, Steve Lant. He is here. I know at least 2 Arizona Rangers are here. We are recruiting. If you believe in community service, can shoot a gun, and don't mind rolling around in the gravel sometimes, we want you on our team. I represent the Hispanic American Rifle Association. Now, a lot of people, especially over in the East, and see, I'm from South America. I'm from Louisiana originally. A lot of people over, especially in the South and East, think that their idea of a Hispanic is illegals working at the chicken plant. All right? That's not who we are. That's not who we are. Hispanics make up 20% of the entire U.S. population. People of Hispanic descent, I'm one of them. And Richard Mack, a good friend, later on, we'll see him later on that God leave. Appreciate you, Mark, for having this opportunity. How many major shooting associations have reached out to 60 million Hispanic lineage Americans? Foundation so much, we're looking for allies, we're looking for sponsors, we're looking for people to work with. I'll be in the lobby. We have a newspaper, national newspaper article on our associations out right now. I have a few of these to give away. The point is, listen to this. You've got people, nobody is more aware of what an unarmed country goes through than the Hispanic people. Look at Mexico. Look at that gun control. Look how 250,000 people have been killed, but no guns allowed. Really? Well, I guess they just all died voluntarily, huh? Is that right? Well, this is what you get when you get gun control. You have people, you have brutality on the population. Do you realize that 4 out of 5 Hispanic women who come up here from Mexico, Central South America, 4 out of 5 are abused, are attacked? We don't have to explain to them about the advantage and the need to be able to defend oneself. They get it. Think about this, friends. 60 million people that we're just now reaching out to as gun owners. Let's say we get 5% of them to vote. That's 3 million people. You think that can't affect an election? None of us wants the alternative if Donald Trump doesn't win. None of us wants that. We can give millions of new voters, and the Hispanic people typically tend to be family-oriented. They tend to be more spiritually connected. They are natural allies of gun. It's true. And we're going to do it. We've got to have more people, more warm bodies, people voting and participating and seeing how much fun shooting can be. So I thank you so much.
And everyone, Dave Workman and Dan Russell, come on up. That's awesome. I love it. You go right ahead and front, Joe. Got Dave Workman. Dave, I'm going to start off with you. So we'll start off with Dave Workman. Come on up, Dave. Here you go.
Mark always introduces me on his radio program as his mom's favorite guest. There's a reason for that. Son, covering this for the Gun Mag and Liberty Park Press and a few of the other folks that I write for, I noticed that several speakers came up and reminded us all that in San Francisco, Callahan was on the beat. Go ahead, make my day. You may be terrorists, but people like me are San Francisco's worst nightmare. I'm an old guy, I'm a shooter, and I have a degree in journalism. Now, I've written, I think it's 7 books now with Alan Gottlieb, the fellow in the bow tie back over here. He's my co-author, and we have covered a lot of different subjects, but primarily it's always the same subjects. Guns are our books. I'm in a room full of good guys with guns, so I'm very happy to be here. What I think is the most important thing you can do with the books that we write is to give them to somebody, let them read them. You're usually familiar with the subject matter. We go to great lengths to be accurate. I don't make up stuff. I typically refer to FBI uniform crime reports, which is a lot of fun because when I talk to other reporters, frequently they give me a call on the phone or actually come over to do some video news. I can refer to that, and the other side can't say that Workman's making that stuff up. You know, they can call me a liar all they want to, they have, but they don't call the FBI a liar. That's where we get our data, and I correct people a lot, and in the books that we do, there's a lot of people. I think it's also important that you make yourselves familiar with the facts. Pick up a book from John Locke, pick up a book from any of the other folks, and the information that's in there. You can repeat it off the top of your head. I think the truth shall always set you free. And that's what this is all about, freedom now. I'm glad that a lot of you felt free to come here on a Sunday morning, and typically I'm going hunting this time of year. I'm going to arrange to have all of our books sent to Beto O'Rourke for Christmas, and maybe Nancy Pelosi will get copies too. She still lives in San Francisco, and Frank Bullitt over to be her chauffeur. Give her a ride down those hills, you know, in a Mustang. But thanks again for being here, and there is one more thing. You know, the other day says, you're one of my heroes. And I'm crazy. There is counseling for that, but I'm not. Yeah. Did they let you out of that rubber room? Okay. I'm not a hero, but I'm in a room full of them. And you take that back and do what you need to do. Read the books, and before you're gone, make sure you thank Alan Gottlieb for putting this thing on, because this took a hell of a lot of work. Alan and Julianne and our staff, all I did to do. I do the easy part, I just write about this stuff. So anyway, you have a good weekend and drive careful wherever you go.
Trying to call my dad, I can't find him. He's not picking up, I don't know what that means. Dan Wass, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, and Good Gun, Bad Guy 2. Dan, welcome to the panel.
Hello, folks. Thank you to Alan, Julianne, Jennifer, everybody else involved for putting this great event on. And thank you all for gathering here this weekend and making this portion of Phoenix the safest place on the planet. My name is Dan Wass. I'm the author of a book called Good Gun, Bad Guy, and I focus primarily on the strategies and the tactics of the anti-gun crowd. And I'll give you a couple examples. Have you ever heard anyone say, nobody needs an AR-15? How about, why do you need to carry a gun in public? I got one. You're just going to the grocery store. What do you need to have a gun for? First of all, if I ask why they use the word need, See, they know gun rights they know the Second Amendment is our right. They just don't want it to be. They can't change the Second Amendment, but they can change public opinion. Need is a very important tool in changing public opinion. Of need. They want gun ownership to be measured by a metric of need. Somebody would need to manage that. Someone would need to be. We've heard Wild West. Now, Wild West is a term that they across the country, keep them there for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, remove all armed security. But their straw man argument is that we want to force teachers to carry guns. They'll say things like, you gun owners want everyone running around with guns like it's a Wild West. So straw man argument paints out and find ourselves defending the straw man. So when someone accuses us of so the idea here is we want to put them on the backside of the question. We want to put them in the defensive position. So when they create a straw man argument, like position, it was fact argument, because it puts you in a position that validates them. So we're here this weekend because, and they hate this, but we gun owners, we're millions strong. And we stand together, we support our freedoms and our rights. And I'm just proud to be here among so many responsible, respectable people this weekend. Thank you very much.
All right, we're running a little bit ahead of schedule today. We got our next panel ready to go. Jeff Knox, looking for Alan. Corwin, we all know Alan's panel is the Second Amendment Organizations Report, and it's a good one.
Say your name and order before you start. Julian.
Reach out for Alan Corwin.
Poke your head out the door and just yell for Alan Corwin. Coming for us. They don't know.
Telegram for Alan, telegram for Alan.
I'm sure Mr. Corwin will find his way up here somewhere. We'll go ahead and get started while we're looking for him. Jeff Knox from the Firearms Coalition. Always a pleasure, Jeff.
Good morning, gun lobby. Do you know what the most powerful entity in the United States? It's you. Now, too long. My friend, Representative Frank Carroll, is sitting in the audience today. Stand up, Frank. Frank teaches workshops, influence the process. Now, I'm a firm believer in supporting your local gun rights group. I live on you supporting your local gun rights group. For a long, long time, I've endorsed and without your help. Then, if you've got something in your pocket, yes, first place to go is your state rights organization. If you've got something else left over, then move on up the chain. There are that $5 a month makes a huge difference to them. You write a $5,000 check to this organization or that organization, that has some impact, maybe. You write a $5 check to these guys sitting over here that are putting out good rights content,
I will love you forever.
Paul will love you forever. Okay? But the most important message that I really is the message that I started with. You are the gun lobby. It's up to me. It's not I gave it the office. It's up to me. I have to take the action. So fine, with all of the organizations, with all of the news sources, ammoland.com, I write for them, they have tons of information, news, quality information. John Lott's organization. You want to talk about a great resource. Use them, support them. Find the resource that is giving you the information you need, letting you know what bills are coming up, when you need to be reaching out they ask you to. When AZCDL sends you an email and says, please push this little button and contact your congressman, we've done all of the work for you. Do it every single time. Then make a phone call. Call the White House, 202-456-1 switchboard, 202-224-3121, that I oppose this. And one thing that I want to get really clear, we all know that Beto O'Rourke is the only Democrat who really wants to take away our guns. Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. We're going up against something that all of the cards are stacked against us every single day. The media is completely in the tank for the anti-rights folks. And so it's up to us. And one of the things that you can do, coming up very soon, on November the 2nd, and I think it's appropriate that it's a 2nd, on November the 2nd, there's going to be a rally in DC on the Capitol grounds, are the gun lobby, and we won't stand for this nonsense anymore. My name is Jeff Knox. I'm the director of the Firearms Coalition. I've been at this. I want to remind you all on this Sunday morning to please Road. Joe is ailing. He's one of my favorite people on earth. He's the only individual I've ever named a second after.
So they had to go find me because I did what speakers do before they get up and speak. Let me start by thanking Alan Gottlieb, who pulled all this together, and he's sitting right back there. Thank you, Alan. You all got a copy of the Worldwide Gun Owners Guide in your book stack. Did you see that? The author is here. Where are you, Larry? There he is, Larry Grubb, the author of the Worldwide Gun Owners Guide. You know him under another name, but I'll him later. He's turning at a shooting range, and it turns out every nation has gun rights, gun stores, shooting ranges. Some of them are actually better than ours. Most of them not. But the idea that we're it is wrong. And you get that from the media, and they're wrong. Now, I'm here to talk to you about, you know what that is. And let me ask you another question. Would all the Jewish raise your hands? Now, you don't have to be Jewish to join JPFO, you just have to love liberty. So I want yeah, I'll take it. So I want everybody who raised their hands who isn't Jewish, when this panel is done, to run outside and join JPFO for 2 years. And get the discount. It's $40. Or don't be Jewish and join for 1 year for $25 and don't get the discount. JPFO, the Jews who get it, really get it. And their newsletter has things in it you won't see anywhere else because they really get it. And a lot of Jews are liberals, don't get it, and they're a problem because they're in Congress, they can't think straight. The Jews in JPFO do, and you should support that and learn what they know because they reveal things in JPFO that you will not see in any of the other groups. And one of the speakers yesterday talked about the NRA has 5 million members, but the gun lobby has 100 million members, and you're the gun lobby. So join some of these other groups and find out what they know, and JPFO is a key to that, and there's a table right outside where you can join for 2 years and get the discount. Or 1 year, if that works better for you, and you don't get it because you're not Jewish. Now, the Jews were slaves, and in fact, almost every group has slavery in its background. Almost every single group. And the Jews recognize it, and a nation of the Jews from the Egyptians, who were still a problem. God freed us from Egypt, and they took wealth, and they took weapons with them because they knew they'd need them, and they got out. And we're not looking for reparations. I can't hear you. Are you pro-gun? That's a bad idea. And here's why. If you're pro-gun, what is the other side? Anti-gun. They think guns are bad. And that the right position to take is to be anti-gun. If you say you're pro-gun, you hand the other side a win. You should think of yourself as pro-rights. If you're pro-rights, what's the other side? Anti-rights. And who wins that argument? You do. You're pro-rights, pro-freedom, pro-liberty, pro-self-defense. They are anti-rights, anti-liberty, anti-self-defense. They kill us with the language, you know that. They've been talking about assault weapons in here. Assault is a kind of behavior. It is not a kind of hardware. We'll get this in the JPFO newsletter because I edited it. You will hear all sorts of pro-rights language in that newsletter and in their e-blasts. And occasionally an e-blast goes out because the editor of that doesn't get a chance to run everything by me. They don't want me to be a roadblock. And then I make corrections. They want you, you'll see this in the media, they keep talking about shooting instead of murder. On CNN, MSNBC, the networks, Washington Post, and the New York Times, there was a shooting. Shooting is a sport. It's the number 2 sport in America, bigger than golf. Murder is a crime, and they never talk about the murderer or murders, they talk about shooting and the shooter. They denigrate our sport and a righteous American pursuit by talking about shooting and shootings and mass shooters instead of mass murderers. They're killing you with the language. Don't let them do it. You will not see that in the JPFO literature, but you will in the NRA literature, and I keep trying to fix them. And I do fix them some. They are now talking about normal capacity magazines instead of high capacity magazines, because a Glock takes a normal capacity magazine. We used to have a group here in Arizona. How many umbrella group? It was a group of groups. For a minute, Mark, you watch yourself. I got a clock too. Keep you honest. The Mark Walters Show. We need to get all the local groups together, and you do too in your state, and meet over a meal. Break bread. Get together, sit and talk. You'd be amazed what happens. It's the First Amendment, the part everybody forgets about, the right to assemble. That's why they don't like gun shows. It's the right to assemble. You put a bunch of people in a room like this, and good stuff happens. And you get ideas, and you bounce them off each other. Find a restaurant that has a room, separate checks, because you're all Jewish at heart. separate checks. If a restaurant won't take separate checks, screw them. You won't write invoices for all of us? We don't need your business. We'll find a place that will. And let them write separate checks. Go there, talk. What can we do to improve the situation? Which legislators are good and deserve our support? Now I'm out of time. Thank you very much. Go join JPFO. Thank you.
This is a tough group, man, to keep in check, as you can tell, I'll be honest with you. These guys are all good. Coming up next, Matthew LaRosier. Matthew is coming up for the Firearms Policy Coalition. Thanks, Matthew.
How are y'all doing? I'm Matt LaRosier, I'm the Director of Legal Policy for Firearms Policy Coalition. Is that better, guys?
Yeah.
I can do it again for you. I'm Matt LaRosier, I'm the Director of Legal Policy for Firearms Policy broadly and really make some wins in our field. But most of all, I'd like to thank all of our supporters, members, and all of you activists who make this possible, who make this important. If it weren't for you guys, none of us would be up here. The legislative branch, in fact, in the past few weeks, we were up in DC. In fact, we had 2 meetings in the period of a couple of weeks at the White House with different senators and members' offices. And we were there. You know, they were always asking, well, you know, what looks good to you? What look, you know? Well, no, we don't negotiate with politicians. We were there to educate them on the serious implications that some of these common sense measures have against people like you and me. Because the fact is, when you let one side control the entire debate and you don't check it, when you have an emotional argument on one end and it's not being checked with a proper counter-argument, they're allowed to control the whole field. And that's the field we're operating in. But we were sitting down with these members and explaining the real effects of red flag laws. We were talking about some of our members who have been affected, the real human civil rights consequences, and especially those consequences for poor, minority, disadvantaged Americans. That these people, when we told them these things and we showed them the data that we had gotten, they were blue in the face. It was like they had never seen it before. We also are involved in litigation constantly. We brought more than one challenge to the bump stock rule, the age ban, assault weapons bans. Constantly we're working on that. We do research. We just now, from speaking to our members made it clear to us that they want more to be done. They want more out there. So we put together a legal policy shop. We now have a dedicated gun members of that, and we're getting because no one had taken the time to break these things down into plain English. I don't know. Hopefully most of you aren't lawyers. I hope there's notice that we endeavor to read the Martian script and translate it. Great one-stop resource. You don't have to go to any statutes. It's all footnoted. It's all properly have debates on all of these different proposals that are coming up. Not only that, we get involved in firearms technology, outreach, education, grassroots, media. We've had, I don't know how many cable TV appearances, again, in the last month since we opened the new legal shop. But the most important thing for us is that our philosophy drives all of our work. We have a set of founding principles which go back and are rooted in the Constitution, but not just the Constitution. Because let's be clear about something. The Constitution is an instrument of law, and it recognizes rights that existed before the government. So there's a philosophy behind those rights. There's an understanding of human autonomy behind those rights. The fact is, your right to keep and bear arms is related to your human right to control your autonomy, to control your livelihood, right? The right to keep and bear arms is there's no whitetail clause, right? It's not about hunting. It's not about target shooting, and have to accept unlawful. And we need to own that philosophy. It's not about the Second Amendment, because if the Second Amendment weren't there, we would still have a right not to be turned into dust because of an unlawful actor. Thanks. So again, as my friend from the Jews who know was letting you know, it's not about your gun collection, it's not about hunting, it's not about stuff like that. These are the types of discussions you need to have with people. Because for years, the discussion has been too tone deaf. People, when a person who's not on our side thinks about somebody who's pro-gun rights, they think about an old white guy, in a cabin who's stacked 10 transferable Thompsons deep, right? Like, just a weird reporter. You have to make it clear that it's not about that. You have to make it clear. You have to draw real life examples, right? It's easy to say, well, I don't think you should have an AR-15. It's like, okay, that's fine. Well, do you drive a car? You just say yes. Okay, so do you feel comfortable with me deciding how many gallons are in your gas tank or how many horsepower you have, or is that your decision? Because either way, when you drive the car, you have to drive it responsibly, right? I can cause damage with a Prius. Like, level with these people and speak openly and honestly with them versus, well, I have a right to do it. You're speaking two different languages. Understand that there's two things that you have to do to change this debate. Go out and talk to people. Make friends with people who disagree with you and speak to them like normal human beings. And two, join the Firearms Policy Coalition.
Thank you, Matthew. Next.
Well, hello, fellow patriots. How are we doing this morning? It's good to be here with you all. This is a good day for liberty, isn't it? Well, I'm Eric Pratt. I'm Senior Vice President of Gun Owners of America, and it's good to be here with you today. I want to share a little bit about what GOA has been doing over the past year, although I will tell you, there is so much that has already gone on just in the last month and a half. I mean, as you guys know, Gilroy, California happened. Then there was Dayton and El Paso. Then there was Beto, right? He wants to buy back our AR-15s. I'm not sure he could pass the background check. Gun grabbers like Beto have started a do something mantra on Capitol Hill, urging Congress to pass all kinds of gun control. So in response to all this, GOA has generated over 3 million messages from the grassroots into Capitol Hill and into the White House. And I know some of the people doing that are in this room because you've come by the booth and you've told me you've been sending in your postcards, you've been sending your emails, and I greatly appreciate that. One senior office confided to us that passing gun control would have already been a done deal on Capitol Hill. Except he said, what's happened is that gun owners have been so loud and have put so much pressure on. Thank those of you who offices have told us that the sentiment on Capitol Hill is that they just feel like they have to do something. So we've told them, okay, do something. Pass concealed carry reciprocity. That will do something. That will do something to save lives, won't it? And so that's been our message as we've met with congressional offices, as we've met with the White House. We've told them no gun control, repeal gun-free zones, and pass concealed carry reciprocity. And I ran into somebody from a very high-ranking office who I know, and he told me, he said, thank you so much for sending us the materials that you've been sending. They're very helpful. The constitutional arguments are good, but he said, you know what? Especially the political arguments that you've been making, showing how gun control is a political loser. That's really helping. Keep sending that to us. I'm distributing it around. And what we've been doing is we've been feeding Capitol Hill and the White House many examples showing how gun control could cost Republicans their elections. And that's resonating up there. Kelly Ayotte is an example of this. She, New Hampshire says while she was in there. So gun leaders in her state started encouraging gun owners to boycott her, and it took just enough. They did. She lost by 1,000 votes in 2016. See, it doesn't take a huge revolt of the base. All it takes is a few people to say, you know what, I'm just going to sit this one out, or I'm going to vote third party, and that has dramatic electoral consequences. And that's what our polling shows. We found that 78% of gun owners consider themselves single-issue voters when it comes to the Second Amendment. And 92% of gun owners say that they would never vote to re-elect a legislator that supports universal background checks. So those are the types of messages that are really resonating on Capitol Hill. Now, in regard to universal background checks, that is registration. Even the Obama administration admitted in 2013 that the only way for universal background checks to work is to have a comprehensive gun owner registration system. And you know what? The ATF has already started on this. GOA has heard from gun dealers all around the country that in some cases they are using the compliance inspections to make wholesale copies, illegally, wholesale copies of the 4473 forms in their stores. So if you start running virtually every gun sale, private, etc., through a back, not only at the federal level, but at the state level as well. It's scheduled to vote on a red flag gun bill. And so we hammered him by having our grassroots members contact him. And he ended up pulling the bill from being voted on, and he told a state representative who were bill. Well, I'm so glad our activists were able to change his mind on that, but non-controversial? I mean, since when is gun confiscation non-controversial? I mean, these guys need to wake up. Now, in regard to putting pressure like that on politicians, I should mention that last year, very exciting, here at the GRPC, in fact, GOA's Texas State Director, Rachel Malone, who many of you know, was awarded the Grassroots Activist of the Year Award, and boy, has she earned it. You know, earlier this year when the Texas governor started considering several gun control restrictions, she hastily got a group of people together, had a press conference right outside the Capitol, and she got Stephen Williford, the hero of Sutherland Springs, Texas, to show up at the event. He came open carrying his AR-15, the very one that he used to gun down that dirtbag in that church, the guy who had killed so many people a couple years back. In fact, it still had the FBI tags on it. It was very fresh. Anyway, so far this year, it's been really good. Texas has stopped all gun control. They've passed limited constitutional carry, which takes effect during disasters. And yet another county in Texas passed a GOA-backed Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance. These are basically laws that put the state on notice that county officials will not help enforce any gun control laws. By the way, GOA has draft legislation on this, so if any of you are interested in getting your county involved, please contact us. You can just go through the contact information on our website. We can get you a draft bill on this, so we really want to get that around. Now, given that I'm almost out of time, I should mention that we're also involved in the courts as well. We're challenging the ATF bump stock ban. That case is currently in the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, and we've submitted a brief in the New York City case, which is before the Supreme Court. And you can read more about that on our website. When you're there, please sign up for our free email alerts. Those are very instrumental in putting the heat on Congress. There's action alerts there at the top of the page, so please take action. We're over 2 million members and activists strong, and it's because of folks like yourselves getting the right to self-defense. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I'm Todd Rathner. I'm the founder of the NFA Freedom Alliance and the chairman of the NFA Freedom Alliance. There needs to be a focus, or that there actually is a focus on NFA-related issues. For so many years, it's been the ignored part of our Second Amendment rights, and it was something that I felt strongly that we needed to make sure had proper representation. I want to thank Alan Gottlieb and Julianne. I don't see them; they were here earlier, but oh, there's Alan in the back. I want to thank them. This event is so the one place where we can set aside some of our differences for a weekend and have a good time together and have a drink and talk about issues that are important for the upcoming battles, and then we can go back to arguing with each other next week. So I want to welcome you all to my adopted home state of Arizona. Normally, I don't invite anyone to come live in Arizona, and I tell them that it's full of scorpions and snakes, and it's hot, dry, you don't want to come here. But the folks in this room, you're all welcome. We have, yeah, I genuinely mean that. But I know you folks are true patriots and love liberty, and you're all welcome to come into Arizona anytime you like. Since 2014, the NFA Freedom Alliance has been working on a lot of different issues because of some of the things that changed at the federal level. The landscape, the political landscape has changed because it was completely ignored. What people don't understand is that almost every single state has had NFA-related laws on the books, and if you read the law, if you read the law carefully in Texas, before we got to work there, if you read the law carefully in Texas, a person could be arrested for possessing NFA items in the state of Texas. People actually were arrested. A friend of mine was actually arrested, and we talked about it. It took him 15 NFA items back, and that was because the way the Texas law was set up, you essentially had a defense to prosecution if you were arrested for possession of one of these items. And what a defense to prosecution actually means is you get to go up in front of the judge and argue that, yes, I should be allowed to own this stuff, or yes, I do legally own it. But that means generally you've got to go get a lawyer, you've got to spend time, you've got to spend money, you've got to spend effort. And that was one of the things, one of the premier things that we fixed. We had a similar law in Arizona, believe it or not. The law was written, it was actually written in a very bizarre way, and it referenced, I think, 1930s or 1940s agencies that don't even exist anymore. So we changed that here in Arizona a number of years ago with the help of some of our friends in this room from ACCDL and other organizations. We've worked in Oklahoma to make hunting with suppressors, silencers, whatever you want to call them. Sometimes I say suppressors because they're not silent, but the law calls them silencers, so I call them silencers. It just depends on my mood and who I'm in the room with. That's true. A lot depends on my mood and who I'm in the room with. So, speaking of silencers, I just think that, well, after the Virginia Beach shooting where supposedly the killer used a silencer, and I say supposedly because I haven't seen any proof of that, I haven't seen any documentation of it, I haven't seen even a photograph of it. I could be wrong, it may be out there. Maybe someone in this room can tell me where I can see it. I haven't seen it. But after the Virginia Beach shooting, there have been proposals popping up all over the country. The President of the United States came out and said something less than wise, that he doesn't like silencers or doesn't like suppressors. I'm not sure how he said it. I think we may have gotten him straightened out on that, I hope, at least for the next 24 to 48 hours, and we'll see what he says next. But there were actual bans on silencers proposed in states where silencers are legal, have been legal for years. And the absurdity that they want to ban what is essentially a piece of safety equipment, it's just nuts. I mean, these people are absolutely nuts. They're off their rockers. The racially challenged governor of Virginia was the first to come out and call for a ban on silencers and other gun control measures, and a bunch of groups got together and went down to Richmond, and for some reason, Republicans managed, for the first time in recent memory, to actually stick together what their principles were. They convened for something like 8 hours or 10 hours. Not a single bill was filed, not a single bill was discussed, not a single hearing was held, and we managed to escape a ban on silence. That we're going to see a call for bans on silencers across the country in various states. We may even see it in states where we think we're safe. I don't think that we'll see it in Arizona, but I will use Arizona as an example. Arizona has a 1-vote Republican majority in the House and a 1-vote Republican majority in the Senate. And the one thing that I've learned is that, as a lobbyist for a very, very long time, is the letter after the legislator's name is absolutely worthless. It doesn't mean anything. Republican doesn't mean anything. Democrat doesn't mean anything. It's what is going to help me get reelected. And if they think that banning an accessory or banning a city product, as I like to call it, is going to help them get reelected, then that's what they're going to do. And they'll run the proposal whether we like it or not. And we're going to have to fight that stuff. In the country, and I fight stuff like this. And for the first time, I think, in a long time on some of this NFA stuff, we've been on offense. And I think that for the first time in a long time, we're going to be on defense on this particular issue. And I need your help with that. The only way that I can fly around the country and do this stuff is if I have people like you contribute to us. If you want to contribute, if you can help, we have a PayPal account. It's just todd@nfafa.org. You can send me a few bucks. Some of this stuff, I see Mark heading my way, and I don't know how to pronounce the name exactly, but I believe it's the Getty case on bump stocks. We're going to be joining as amicus. Dan Schmutter, sitting up in the front row here, is going to write our brief for us, and we're proud to work with the Firearms Policy Coalition to get that done, and hopefully we'll be able to beat this insane regulatory scheme that takes a thing and makes it into.
Hi, my name is Doug. I'm a knifeaholic. And I am a freedom-aholic. I am addicted to freedom, as we all are in this room. Knife Rights is about freedom. It is about the Second Amendment, and it is about criminal justice reform. We are dedicated to the principle, inanimate object with a sharp edge and a point, ever commits a crime. Of our Second Amendment. Remember what knives matter? All knives matter. This has been a momentous year for Knife Rights. After 9 years of effort, 8 years of federal litigation in the infamous Second Circuit, 6 years of legislative effort, we finally backed New York Governor Andrew Cuomo into a corner and ended, for all practical purposes, the arrest, jail, and common pocket knife in New York. After an estimated 70,000 such arrests, jailings, and prosecutions, 85% of which were people of color, the ethically challenged district attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. and his assistant district attorney Dan Rather Jr., their reign of terror over knife owners is done. Petition for cert to the Supreme Court. The governor held his nose and signed our bill, repealing the infamous scrapping knife ban entirely, the ban that was the common pocket knife in New York City. You can now carry that whatever happens. You know, let me give credit where credit is due. Dan Schmutter, sitting there in the front yard, so to speak, did a wonderful job in years and years of litigation. Todd Rathner, my colleague and lobbyist,
did an incredible job helping our sponsor, Dan Court, in the legislature. And of course, I always need to give credit to my wife, Sue, sitting back there. Let's give her a hand. We couldn't do this without her. It is a wonderful feeling to know, as a result of our efforts, literally tens of thousands of knife owners and carriers in New York City will no longer be arrested, jailed, or prosecuted, persecuted really, for carrying a common pocket knife or even a true gravity knife. Let me put this into perspective. In the 9 long years that we spent on this effort in New York, we saw 30 other bills repealing knife bans enacted in 21 states. Pleased to report this year we finished off our multi-year effort in Montana by repealing their ban on switchblades and passing knife law prevention. The 15th and 11th state respectively, where we have accomplished that. It was a pleasure to award Democratic Governor Steve Bullock with his own inscribed automatic knife at the signing ceremony. And indeed, we have reports he was enjoying it so much, going around the office, opening it and closing it, that his chief of staff wasn't happy because work wasn't getting done. And that's okay. In Congress, knife rights is active.
Good morning, deplorables. My name is Joe Waldron, and as Mark for guns, and they call us paranoid in response. Well, the cat is out of the bag. CCR-KBA is the lobbying side of the Liberty Park home. SAF is a 501c3 and thus prohibited from directly advocating legislation. So C4 under IRS rules, and lobbying is our game. Our principal focus is lobbying at the federal level. As you have already heard from Mark Barnes, our representative on Capitol Hill, I think he spoke yesterday. Lobbyists play a critical role in passing or opposing legislation. Lobbyist is frequently used as a 4-letter word, unless it's your lobbyist. We're frequently called special interests, but when nearly half of the homes in this country, if not more than half, have a gun in them, at what point do we become a public interest? Certainly representing a fundamental enumerated right in the Bill of Rights has got to be a public interest. One more thing about lobbyists. Most out, they're looking for taxpayer dollars, your dollars, to support their clients. Gun lobbyists are generally there with their hands up, just asking that we be left alone, that our rights not be diminished. And we usually pay our own way on the infrequent occasions we do ask for a funded program. Classic example, the Pittman-Robertson Act, which goes back 70, 80 years now, money for conservation donated by gun owners. It's lobbying, you've heard it here before this morning, and it's effective. And it's important, in fact, no, it's not important, it's critical that each of you communicate your concerns with your elected officials. 80 years ago, the great American humorist Will Rogers observed, it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble, it's what we know that isn't so. Half, maybe more of a lobbyist's job is education. There's an incredible amount of misinformation, your friends, information floating all around out there. Senators and representatives at the federal level, senators and representatives, elected officials are anti-gun. What am I going to accomplish there? It doesn't matter. Inform them. Make them go on record. As competitive rifle shooters, we like to say, run them up in disco. If they want to come out in writing and say they're anti-gun, let them do that. To do that, you need ammunition. In this case, information. Hopefully you're going to get a lot of that, or you have gotten a lot of that right here this week in newsletter. We call e-mail. What have I done this month to protect our rights? Well, we suggest a topic, you pick whatever pushes your button. The important thing is to communicate, and to communicate often. They need to know who you are. Typically, there are 100 or more gun bills filed in Congress every session. At the state level, you'll find dozens, if not more than dozens, of gun-related bills filed, pro or con. If you write a letter, it should be short, no more than 1 or 2 points, 1 or 2 pages. But whatever you do, check the spelling. The first thing that's going to pop out in a letter when a legislative aide or the legislator reads it is a misspelled word. I'm going to cut it off here. I'd like to thank you for your time. Contact information for your elected officials, for your congressional elected officials. If you go to www.ccrkba.org, go down the left column, the left margin, and you'll see contact information for elected officials there. Those are federal officials. Again, our principal focus is at the federal level, but it's also in the blue pages of your telephone directory. But please, I don't care how you do it. You don't like to write letters. You're not good at writing letters. You can go straight to the White House, fill in the blanks, and send your opinions to the president. He won't read it. No, the president probably won't read it. But they count. They take numbers. What are the calls we're getting? What's the position one way or the other? And those numbers influence what the man does. Thank you.
Take about 10 seconds to clarify. Real quick, my name's Jeff Knox. I'm with the Firearms Coalition, and there's a little bit of 1984. For over 35 years, the Firearms Coalition has been working for you. When the Firearms Policy Coalition came along, a little bit of confusion came up with that, but just recently another group has come out called the American Firearms Coalition. And there's more confusion going on. We are the Firearms Coalition. If it doesn't say Knox, it's not the Firearms Coalition. So I just wanted to get that out there, and I thank you for your time and your attention today. Thanks a lot.
Next year. We are going to speak in front of the House Judiciary Committee. This is very important. So we're going to case a lot of friendly faces, so some of you can put some hostile faces on maybe, so she gets used to it. Anybody want to pretend to be Jerry Nadler? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Because I didn't prepare for this, I didn't dress for this, and that's part of why I thought it was probably a good idea. Okay, 5 minutes. I got opening statement. Yes, sir. I'm expecting them to introduce me. Diana Muller is a 22-year retired police officer from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with assignments including patrol, street crimes, gangs, and narcotics. She is currently a professional shooting competitor, twice having the honor of representing the United States on an international stage. She is the founder and president of the DC Project Foundation. Then I come, or whatever. Thank you, Chairman Nadler, Ranking Member Collins, and committee members. It's a genuine honor to be, and I count it a blessing to be in here in front of you today. I am an ordinary. Years ago, I came to this town as a tourist, and during a haphazard, are you timing me? You should be timing me. Haphazard meeting with my congressman, I asked if there was something as I, as a professional shooter, should be doing to dispel that misinformation about guns and gun owners that was rampant on Capitol Hill. From there, the DC Project was born. An educational, nonpartisan effort of 50 women, one from every state, meeting their legislators as gun owners and Second Amendment supporters. We are mothers and daughters, young and old, black and white, hunters and competitors, transgender and straight, #MeToo, #NotMe, even left and right. Many of these women, like the victims of the mass public shootings, have endured unspeakable violence themselves or lost loved ones. Just like Kate Nixon, who knew her coworker was unstable and felt that he would shoot up the place, her quote, her husband encouraged her to take a pistol to work, but she didn't want to break the rules. She followed the policy that was supposed to keep her safe, a gun-free zone, and she was murdered the next day in the Virginia Beach shooting. These laws and policies are taking away women's right to be a voice for the millions of women who share my ideologies, my beliefs, but are not represented in mainstream media and are squelched on social media. So why does anybody need an AR-15? Let me explain it in shoes. I wouldn't run a marathon in 3-inch heels, and I wouldn't go to a ball in sneakers. So the AR-15 is more along the lines of a really flat, comfortable shoe. that gets called on for many occasions. I, as a competitor, it's my go-to for home defense and vehicle gun. As a competitor, I've turned a hobby into a living. My husband hunts with his AR-15, a healthier, green way of providing for our family. And I may not need the heels. No, I don't want that one. The AR-15 platform is the most popular general-purpose rifle because it's the most versatile and customizable. And freedom doesn't ask why the need. To quote William Pitt the Younger, necessity is the plea of every infringement on human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants and the creed of slaves. You can still clap? I don't think we're gonna clap. For 22 years as a police officer, I enforced the laws that you created and had a front row seat to the justice system. It's frustrating to see the revolving door where prosecutors reduce or drop charges, judges give minimal sentencing. I find it ironic in today's effort of criminal justice reform that you are taking steps to be lenient on people who have actually committed crimes against laws you created, while at the same time you're proposing more laws that turn law-abiding ordinary citizens into criminals. They're not going to say yeah. How about holding people accountable for the laws that are already on the books before we pass any further legislation that would be only burdensome to the law-abiding? If these laws were the answer, Chicago, Baltimore, LA, and even this, but I had peace about having an AR-15 by my side. I own and carry firearms not to take a life, but to protect a life. I am worth protecting. My family is worth protecting. The firearms community is leading the way in meaningful safety measures. We too want to address the violence. We are the most safety conscious group. There isn't a gun photo or video on social media that doesn't get hounded if it's remotely unsafe. I implore you, work with us instead of demonizing us. Instead of calling me a domestic terrorist for being an NRA member, look at me as an expert in my field. I am not the enemy. Law-abiding gun owners are not the enemy. Help our community promote Project Child Safe, Eddie Eagle, Kids Safe Foundation to teach kids about firearm safety, Faster Saves Lives, a school security program, and Walk the Talk America, a suicide prevention program. If you really want to make a difference in gun-related deaths, get behind these programs and fund them, because we believe one life unjustifiably taken is too many. Let's put firearms education back in schools and start protecting our kids like we protect the people in this building. Education over legislation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your time this morning.
Wednesday. I think you got it down. I'm now going to turn the panel back over to Mark. I appreciate your indulgence. Thank you.
Front panel right here, your prescription for firearms freedom. I'm going to start with Sean Crodell. Oh, we'll start with you. Okay, we're going to start with Robert B. Young, MD, Chief Editor for Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Great group. Doctor.
Yeah. Up there, I think it's behind us, you can't actually see me, which usually helps my being received by most groups. Okay, so Mark introduced me, I won't replicate that. DRGO, DRGO.us on the web, Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Tell you what's right, and unfortunately almost always what's wrong with it. We are your resource for that, no matter where you are, what you do in Second Amendment activism. And it's a really important subject, and we're proud to do it. We're also very proud and happy to be a program of the SAF. We thank Alan and Julianne and the whole staff who are so confident in us, they aren't even here to listen, so that's super. And by the way, thank you for coming to breakfast, beverage break this morning that we sponsored. We got downstairs and found out, so we were happy to welcome you that way. Okay, I'm 64 years old. I'm one of the oldsters. Through the program, I've been looking at some of the and listening to some of the younger people. To Alan's Exodus metaphor again. Our project director, Arthur Shabinda, could not be here today. We feel bad about that. The good news is, though, that one of his preoccupations right now is getting ready to move from California to Texas. Yeah. I'm stuck in New York, but okay, so let me introduce our two speakers. First, we'll hear from Dr. Sean Brodale, family physician, ER practitioner in the normal state of Iowa. And occasionally, organized medicine respects reality, right, and truth, because he has become the president of his medical society for his state. And that's a great thing for us. He will give us the details about this year in research, both good and far the majority what's bad. And then we'll hear from Dr. John Adine here, who all of us know, beginning with his fashion presentation Friday night. On the side, he works as a pediatric orthopedic surgeon. He's already in Texas, so clearly he got the message a long time before we did. He'll fill us in about DRGO's position on red flag laws, that hot topic. And I want to refer us all to a position paper we have on the site that tells you not only what's so bad about red flag laws, which we've been hearing about all weekend, but also our opinion on what could be good in them if someone would ever bother to write a law that respects people's rights. So, and we have one more special treat for you. That is that I will not be speaking anymore. Sean?
Yeah, I gotta pull the microphone down just a little bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Sean Brodale, from Doctor of Responsible Gun Ownership. And yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about research done this year by medical professionals on gun violence. First, I'm going to start out with a quote from the AMA Journal of Ethics, a section titled Gun Violence and Trauma Surgery. Mass shootings account for less than 1% of all related deaths gun-related deaths in the U.S. You wouldn't know it. The way they only react when there is a mass murder. They ignore the daily toll of gun violence in Chicago and all the other big cities for that less than 1%. They go on to say that advancing gun research on gun-related injury prevention is severely constrained by the current governmental policies. Now, we all know that's not really true. I found many articles on gun violence done by medical researchers, medical schools, and other medical professionals. Quickly, here are a few of them published since last GRPC. Bolstering gun injury surveillance accuracy using capture-recapture method. Public opinion about the relationship between firearm availability and suicide. Results from a national survey. Family firearm ownership and firearm-related mortality among young children. Comprehensive background check policy and firearm background checks in 3 U.S. states. The Dickey Amendment on federal funding for research on gun violence. Illegal dissection. Firearm, alcohol, and crime convictions for driving under the influence and other alcohol-related crimes and risk of future criminal activity among purchasers of handguns. Analysis of the strength of legal firearm restrictions for perpetrators of domestic violence and their association with intimate partner homicide. California's comprehensive background check and misdemeanor violence. Should I go on? I'll spare you. But the list goes on and on and on. I could go that fast for an hour. So I did a few searches in PubMed. And if you don't know, PubMed is a free resource developed by the government, the National Library of Medicine. It contains over 30 million citations for biomedical technology and information. So I did a search. Gun violence. 135 articles searching just for gun violence in the last year. Over 200 of them for firearm storage. That's almost 4 per week. I found 500 just listing firearms. That's almost 10 per week. And I'm sure there are many more that mention mass shooting, gun control, and other topics that medical researchers just love to blather on and on and on about these days. Now, I'm not saying that all of these are biased towards gun control, although we can expect that most of them are, or that all of them follow their usual slant that all guns are bad and ignore the person that's responsible for pulling the trigger. But it comes down to this. There's a lot of medical research being done out there in the US and in the world about firearm-related injury. While they continue to whine that they can't do any gun violence research. How about this one? Holding Sweden hostage, firearm-related violence. No, this is not Sweden, Michigan, or New Sweden, Illinois, although those US cities exist. This is actually the Scandinavian country of Sweden. Firearm-related violence outside of the US. Now, I thought that didn't happen. You know, according to the gun-grabbing previous president of the United States, this just doesn't happen in other countries, right? Yeah, it does. And it's increasing in Sweden, a country with, by their own proclamation, with some of the world's strictest gun laws, according to this article. Now, I'll admit that Sweden has never had as high a gun rate as, say, Brazil or Mexico with the same strict gun laws. I don't believe this is because of their strict gun laws. There's many more societal and legal issues that affect the violent crime rate. What you see here is, despite the strict gun laws, there is still firearm-related violence, and it can increase despite their gun laws and no changes to their laws. So back in the US, physicians here are just clamoring to get on the gun violence prevention bandwagon. So here's one from 2 physicians at Tulane University School of Medicine in New Orleans. Let's join the lane, the role of infectious disease physicians in preventing gun violence. Now, although it's not a research article per se, it is still, once again, physicians getting in the wrong lane. They do their best to make a case for why their specialty should advocate for gun control. They go as far as state gun violence is an infectious disease issue because many spinal cord injuries are caused by firearms. And then spinal cord injured patients have problems with bed sores and pressure sores. And these sores are an infectious disease nightmare. Despite their long-term look at these pressure sores and people with spinal cord injuries, they fail to see that the gun isn't the problem. They really need to continue to research and practice within their scope of practice and stay in their lane. Here's another one from Dr. Stephen Hargan and Associates. They put forth some very interesting theories in an article called Gun Violence, a Biopsychosocial Disease. Now, I have to say that I was hopeful for this article, because really, if medicine would take that biopsychosocial disease model, look at it literally and actually use it, they would have a much better perspective on what they call gun violence. So let's split it up a little bit and see how this works. So the physical biology, we can study the damage that is done by the bullet, the best ways to treat from beginning to end, even including those infectious disease specialists. We've done that with some of the things like Stop the Bleed program, and I believe FASTER has similar training. So what that is many medical and lay people are now trained how to stop bleeding from any kind of trauma, including direct pressure, clotting agents, and tourniquets. Many of us carry these kits, with a tourniquet and clotting stuff in it. I know Johnny Dean carries his all the time. This is the one I keep in my backpack, and I keep one in each one of my cars. I'm still looking for like an ankle holster or something to carry my kit in so I can have it on strapped on me all the time. The psychological effects of violence. Now, there's been a lot of research about psychology of violence and who may be high risk for violence. But that question, who is high risk, seems to be a little bit better understood when it comes to suicide than for, say, mass public murders. But medical professionals are, and have for millennia, been trying to figure out exactly what makes a person violent, and they're not getting there. This is what those red flag laws think they can predict, but it's way more complicated than that, even for medical professionals. So the social aspects of violence, what perpetuates violence, and what happens there in certain cultures and subcultures. There's been many good ideas, some interventions in the inner cities. All of this could really do a lot in helping the violence that goes on in any way, whether it's gun violence, knife violence, bat violence, hands and feet violence, teeth violence, who cares? With all of this that could be done, it's really unfortunate that Dr. Hargarten and associates don't do their best to make that logic lead them back to gun control. So here's what they say. The disease model provides us with accuracy. The bullet and its kinetic energy shreds, tears, destroys cells, and damages organs, leading to death and disability. Okay, so the bullet is the last step in the chain. That's logical, but where they go next just really isn't. Especially spouting the whole biopsychosocial model. Here's what they say. While behavioral health issues that result in a person pulling a trigger and releasing the energy need to be better understood, the gun, which carries the bullets, becomes a necessary focus of attention. I don't think even they are listening to what they just said. The bullet causes the damage. The person that pulls the trigger needs to be better understood, but the gun is the necessary focus of the intervention. Once again, they're back to what can we do about the gun? That's hopeless. Here's an interesting study by Laura Gunn in the Department of Health Sciences at UNC Charlotte. She's got associates all over the world in this, from England, Colombia, other places. Online interest regarding violent attacks, gun control, and gun purchase, a causal analysis. Now it tells us something that I think we already know. They used Google. Of course, I don't know if I'd be willing to trust Google and Google Trends to make up a study, but it comes down to this. It appears that after a violent act, people search for that violent act. They also search for gun control, and they also search for gun purchases. So they found that, of course, the violent act, that those searches seem to fade off really quickly, and after that, you've got the gun control and gun purchase searches that keep going on. What they figured out was that it's gun control talk in the media that continues on the gun control, the gun purchase searches, and keeps them going on even longer. And I think we've known this for a long time, that all of that stuff in the media gets everybody buying guns. The only problem I thought with that is that the Democrats get a hold of this and realize this research, they might tone down on the rhetoric somewhat. Nah, I've heard them lately, they're not going to tone it down. One last thing, I attended a trauma conference in Iowa in August, and first time I'd been to this conference, so I see a lecture titled Active Shooter in the Healthcare Setting. So of course I went. Of course I knew what I was getting into. And it was true. They spouted all kinds of statistics. One of the statistics that this person spouted over and over again was how many guns were confiscated when another hospital started using metal detectors in their hospitals before people came in. And I thought, okay, so people are carrying, so what? No big deal. She thought it was a big deal. But that wasn't the worst of it. Then she said something like 20% of people were getting through these metal detectors with guns. And I thought, okay, I had to ask. I was trying to be silent, I had to ask. I said, even with metal detectors, we can't stop a significant amount of firearms getting into the facilities. Why don't we just arm the people inside, right? Yeah, you know what I heard? The usual. Well, we have found that increasing the number of firearms is a risk factor for firearm injuries, and the number of gun uses to protect someone is much less than the number of people harmed with guns every year. Yeah, I brought up all the number of people harmed is much less. All right. So, 2 million defensive uses of firearms every year is much more than the harms that they were. She said we'll have to agree to disagree. The only thing I disagreed on is that we've got to stop hiding the research, and we've got to look at it all, and we've got to start doing good research. So despite some good articles, we still have a lot against us, and there's still a lot of medical professionals out there with a lot of opposition. Just remember, DRGO is always here to counter the bias pseudoscience put out by the anti-gun medical professionals and stand up for your right to self-defense.
I thought you lost your marbles there. All right. So my name is Johnny Dean. I'm a pediatric orthopedic surgeon. I practice in San Antonio, Texas. I'm also the membership director for Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. And today I'm going to talk to you about extreme risk protection orders, gun violence restraining orders, or red flag laws, as we all know them to be. Now, a disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. I didn't sleep in a Holiday Inn Express last night. However, the Constitution was written for the common man. So we should be able to read it and understand what it says. So what are these laws and why are they so dangerous? Red flag laws currently are in effect in 15 states and the District of Columbia, and Hawaii's and Nevada's red flag laws go into effect on January 1st, 2020. Red flag laws allows courts to issue orders to temporarily confiscate the firearms of individuals deemed to be at risk to themselves or others. Individual states differ as to who can request an ERPO. In most states, family members and/or law enforcement request the order from a state court judge to confiscate the firearms of the person who they believe to be at risk. The exact details vary from state to state. The hearing is ex parte, which means the at-risk individuals have no notice, no representation, and no ability to rebut the claims of those who would have his firearms taken. In most cases, the only warning is that knock on the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, when law enforcement shows up to take your property. The subject of the red flag order gets his day in court at some later date, and depending on the state, it varies, to plead his case. If the order becomes final, it can last for 6 months to a year before needing to be renewed. But in states like New Jersey, it's indefinite until you can convince a judge that you're no longer a danger. So which constitutional amendments are turned upside down or violated by these laws? The most obvious, of course, the Second Amendment, right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Fourth, the right of the people by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Fifth Amendment, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. And the 14th, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the processes of law, or due process of law, nor deny any person with its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Your accuser has no obligation to prove your guilt. The order to deprive you of your constitutional rights is given using completely unsubstantiated arbitrary terms. You then have to stand before your government to prove your innocence. These laws also have a chilling effect on the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. So what you say on social media or which organizations you belong to In San Francisco can label you a terrorist and subject you to being red flagged and have your property confiscated. And what crime did you commit? The exercise of a constitutionally protected right. Since these proceedings fall under civil rather than criminal law, your Sixth Amendment protections are bypassed. Think about that. Because it's civil, not criminal, okay, you don't get the right to a public and speedy trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have the compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for the defense. Okay, so they've taken that all away from you because it's a civil process. Okay. The Seventh Amendment states that in suits at common law, where value and controversy shall exceed $20, the right to trial by jury shall be preserved. However, the civil proceedings against the individual exceeds $20 in value. How much are your firearms worth? Does anybody own a gun that's worth less than $20? No, okay? So why no trial by jury? The judge has sole jurisdiction over you. Of one person, your fate is in their hands, right? So that's not good. The Eighth Amendment reads, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Is not having your property seized without trial or due process excessive? Is it not excessive fine to have to pay an attorney $10,000 to $20,000 to get your property back, even though you committed no crime? These laws turn innocent until proven guilty on its head. They impose unreasonable search and seizure and deny due process. They deny trial by jury and punish the innocent person before they are found guilty of a crime. Instead, the punishment happens before any criminal conviction or adjudication of mental incompetence. The ex parte nature of the original hearing only presents one side of the argument. Is there a police investigation to confirm the complaints of the person asking for the ERPO? No. Many frag laws hold the complainants harmless from any civil damages, even when the claims are false. Some states even deny rules of evidence, so they don't even have to follow rules of evidence in order to go after you. These laws bypass the processes that already exist. They take away firearms, but not address the potential self-destructive or criminal behavior of the person subject to the ERPO. There are civil commitment processes in place in every state for people to be evaluated by a mental health professional for a limited period of time. During the confinement, a psychiatric evaluation can be done in order to ascertain if they are truly a danger. They can then be adjudicated as being a danger or not with all due process. This has the added benefit of getting help for those who need it while separating the person from all dangerous weapons. If there is criminal intent, the person can be arrested and be charged with a crime. They can then be tried with all their constitutional protections in place. In any event, due process is preserved. Let's look at the practicalities of the ERPO system. What judge is going to deny an ERPO petition? The only risk they have is to deny it. What if the person does something dangerous? Most judges have to get reelected. On the other hand, the accused without any evidence is now put under significant financial burden to prove his innocence. You have to pay for your own mental health evaluation to try to clear your name and get your property rights back. Let's not forget that many in the mental health industry have a bias against firearms, except for our friend here, of course, and a few others. It would be difficult for someone to give fair reckoning on your behalf. How do you prove a negative? Our judicial system should put the burden of proof on the state, not on the accused. Red flag laws can be used against women defending themselves against domestic abusers. They can be used in divorce and child custody litigation as leverage against their partner. They can make things worse by keeping those who might seek mental health treatment for depression or suicidal ideations from pursuing needed intervention and medication because of fear of triggering a red flag law. And then who is responsible for preserving your property during an ERPO? Police departments have been known to damage or destroy seized firearms. You may never get your property back. You will not be compensated for the value of seized property. And to add insult to injury, you may be charged a storage fee. okay? On top of all that stuff. So red flag laws deprive you of your right to keep and bear arms. They subject you to unreasonable search and seizure. They deprive you of due process of law and deprive you of property without just compensation. They remove your rights to speedy and public trial and impartial jury of your peers. You are not accused of a crime and cannot confront your accusers. You cannot call witnesses on your behalf or have counsel represent your interests until after your property and rights have already been violated. It is cruel and unusual punishment to be forced to prove your innocence, costing tens of thousands of dollars to prove a negative. Of course, this abridges the privileges and immunities of the citizens it's used against. These laws have already deprived people of their life, liberty, and property. In jurisdictions that abuse the rights of citizens, are we going to have federal prosecutors charge those who violate citizens' rights under 18 U.S.C. 241, which is the conspiracy against rights, and 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of rights under color of law? We're still waiting. Instead, Senator Rand Paul recently has proposed what he calls a purple flag law. And so what he does is when an accusation is made, instead of seizing the firearms, they confiscate the person, and they put them in, they get them evaluated and get treatment if they need it. Also, the second provision is that if the accuser, if it's known to be false, that person goes to jail for a year, and then they're named in a $1 million civil lawsuit for damages. Okay? And even in the case where the accusation is well-founded, they're going after the person, not the guns. And so those people can be put behind bars and then can have their day in court and have a trial. Okay, so it's obvious to me that those who create red flag laws are not interested in public safety. They only want another mechanism of firearms confiscation and to create more prohibited persons. Okay, and we do have a position paper about this subject at drgo.us. I recommend you take a look at it. Also, Dr. John Lott, who we heard yesterday, is very valuable. He is a gold resource. We need to support him, as well as the SEO, of course. Okay, but so we need to support Dr. Lott. Anyway, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it.
That was the easiest panel in the world to moderate. Dr. John Adine, by the way, just a personal note, was a huge help to my family. A while back, he's a great friend. The last time he was at my house, he brought me 2 huge bottles of Texas whiskey. John, it's all gone. Send more. That was 2 years ago. Come on, brother. We're right on time. We're moving along good. Gun rights. Growing gun rights in LGBTQ and minority communities. Kevin Dixie, Rick Ector, Rhonda Azell, Aaron Pallak, Piper Smith, and my good friend Nikki Stoward. You guys ready to come on up?
So, Mark, does that send lawyers, guns, and whiskey?
It's not a bad combination. Kevin Dixon, right now. Kevin is the owner-operator of No Other Choice Firearms Training and the founder of Aiming for the Truth.
That's right. Louder. Come on. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Good to see your beautiful faces, and thank you all for coming here to support everyone that showed up. So, really quick, my name is Kevin Dixie, so please call me Katie. All right, be informal. If you call me Kevin Dixie, I'm gonna think I owe you money. It's gonna be an awkward conversation. Just call me Katie. All right, that being said, I wanna tell you guys something. Approach me and talk to me. So it's ironic that we spoke after the doctors. I might need some help. I don't know where they went, but I have a really, really serious case of RBF. So, please come talk to me. I'm not mean. Just approach me. I might tickle you, give hugs. You never know. All
all right? So that's what I'm talking about. But, all right, good to see your beautiful faces here. So we're here to talk about growing minority communities and growing in gun rights. Clearly, we're all gun people. We're here to talk about rights. So I'm going to start this off with a definition. And I didn't write a speech. I don't write speeches. I speak from the heart. That's just who I am, okay? But that being said, I'm going to give you a definition. Lacking reality, substance, meaning, or value. Okay, just hold on to that. Lacking reality, substance, meaning, or value. Now, I run a program, as he said, aiming for the truth. So it's ironic that, you know, as I listen and go around the country, and I spend a lot of time in a lot of rooms with people that disagree with me about certain issues, but I find it funny that everybody wants to tell me what's wrong with my community. It's very ironic. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, all right? I grew up in an area called Walnut Park, which is the worst part of the city. I live 4 houses away from a tombstone retailer and take another 20 feet across the street, the city's largest cemetery. So I will watch my friends die, get murdered, watch their parents pick out their tombstone, and walk across the street to a funeral on a regular basis. I don't need people telling me what's wrong. I need people to help me fix what's wrong. Okay? So now, with love and respect, right? Because we clearly all have common ground here, right? We're here in the name of freedom, we're here in the name of rights, right? Which extends beyond guns, but we understand that if we don't have the right to protect ourselves, not just from a criminal element, we understand the concept of tyranny. We can't have a life worth of value if all you gotta do is knock on my door and take it from you. So we gotta be able to protect that. So we're definitely on the same page. However, I'm gonna challenge you with love. So Aiming for the Truth is a program that is built around addressing the issues that cause violence, to kill violence at its roots. Okay? So we talk about fatherhood, fathers' households. I have been responsible at last count for putting 70 fathers back into their child's lives. Okay? Why is that valuable? That's valuable because can you imagine, and I only have probably 3.5 minutes left, but can you imagine what that does for the family unit when the dad's back involved? Just imagine all the benefits of that, right? Imagine all the benefits. Helping people deal with mental health and getting them to the right resources, right? Dealing with those things. A clean mind is going to make sure that the body is well prepared for anything else that goes forward. And we deal with education. We deal with mentorship. We deal with all the things that I know are affecting people in my area. But here's the problem, guys. I'm put into a position where I really can't be as effective as I want to be. One, because when I say, hey, this program isn't directly about guns. It isn't. But what I do is I help people build value and equity in their lives. And then we talk about this little insurance program called the Second Amendment, right? But it's a very methodical way and a very methodical approach to that. The problem is, the real problem is this. When we are having conversations, and I want you to be careful because this is about growth, we're having conversations about inner city. I hear that term a lot. That's cool. I get what you're saying. I get what everybody's saying when they say it. However, I don't want you to neglect the fact that when you say inner city, you are talking about American people. Okay? And you need to say it with a tone where you realize you're talking about Americans. So, we need help with efforts like that. Don't think about it helping inner city people. Think about the fact that you are trying to come up with a plan to help your fellow Americans. Don't be lost. The other thing I want to tell you about growth, I'm going to urge you guys to do this. Stop talking politics. Okay? Stop talking politics. Don't do it. In this room, we get it, right? We understand, we know the terms, we know who's doing what, we get it, right? But if you're talking about growth, let me tell you something. I have a saying, if you were born in my neighborhood, or neighborhoods like mine around the country, you were born Democratic. You don't even understand why, you have no true concept of it. So if somebody comes to you, and the first thing they do is start talking against what you've known all your life, not with policy, but with politics, you're gonna lose them right away. Because I'm gonna defend what I don't even know. I don't even know why I'm defending it. I'm just going to, because you're speaking against what I believe I know. So speak about the policy. Stop doing red and blue, all right? I come from gangs. We stay away from gangs. Stop doing red and blue, all right? Just talk about the policy, period. And if your policy stands on merit, well, right on, right? Another thing, I'm gonna challenge you on this. A lot of times, how much time I got left? 30 seconds, all right. Another thing I'm gonna say is this. A lot of times when you're stepping up and you're having these conversations with people, you're having them in areas that you feel you can control, okay? If you're going to say you're going to help inner city people, I need you to get your right self into the right areas to have those conversations. Stop talking to me over a TV screen. Come down to where I'm at, let's have a conversation. Okay? Start doing that. Now, in my closing, I'm going to say this. I gave you a definition. All right? And I'm going to hold everybody accountable. I told you the definition is lack of reality, substance, meaning, or value. That describes it as the Webster's dictionary for the word empty. Right now, when it comes to supporting people like me, I got a lot of empty talk. I need a lot of real action in support. I want you to understand that. These rooms are great. It's great having these conversations, guys, but I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of times we leave here, and you're all beautiful. We leave here feeling like it was a great photo op, and then we're done. Gonna need some action from you. I need those actions to result and be effective, and we need your assistance. So, I am going to be with the beautiful Tots, Dan and Cheryl over at AZ Folk. We're not gonna be at AZ Firearms, but Aiming for the Truth is coming to the Phoenix area next week. The 28th, between 12 and 2. Come to that event so you can learn more. But I'm telling you right now, guys, if you want to grow a community, if you want to really grow with us, A, I need you to be there, and B, hey, I need you to stop talking. I'm gonna need some of that action. Thank you very much.
Kevin's awesome. You should have seen the presentation he did at NRA. Incredible. Can't wait to bring you to the radio. Rick Ector, legally armed in Detroit.
Good morning. If any of you have ever met me before, you know that I have a lot to talk about. And 5 minutes is putting me like really under the gun, pardon the pun. But I'm here to talk about what I do back home in Detroit. What I do is I am a passionate supporter of gun rights, and I am particularly interested in training women how to take on a more active role in their personal protection. Women need to be exposed to more opportunities to learn more about guns. I got interested in this field because it was a day when I was watching my local newscast on TV, and I heard this very disturbing story. It was a story about a woman whose body was victimized and she was killed, and her body was just dumped on the street in an alley. And it was just the most terrible thing I've ever heard. And I just thought to myself, man, somebody should do something about that. And so I thought about it, and I thought about it, and then I talked to a buddy of mine who's actually here today, Ken Blanchard. I talked with Ken, and Ken said, hey man, do something. You know, what do you suppose? And so I came up with this idea where I wanted to train women how to shoot and how to operate a firearm. So I put out a clarion call out on social media. I tried to summon any contact I had whatsoever to let them know that if you come to a gun range and if you don't know anything about guns, just show up. And that first day, that first year I ran this program, we had 50 women come. And so that first day, we trained 50 women how to shoot and operate a firearm. We covered it free of charge. We provided the guns, we provided ammo. We had volunteer instructors donate their time. We had range safety officers free of charge. Everyone was pretty positive like you are. I got a little bit of applause there. And I was like really down in the dumps. I'm like, "Fate, wow, I only got 50 people." And so I talked to my buddy Ken, and Ken was like, "Okay, that's a good start. Keep going." And so I kept going. 50 grew into 100. Okay, I doubled it. And then the next year it was 200, and then 400, and then 600. Next thing you know, 700. Last year we trained 800 women. And I thought, man, that's great. Just keep going. And undaunted, we have set an ambitious goal. Next year we want to do 1,000 women. We want to train 1,000 women. We want to give them a range safety briefing, and we're going to take them in a booth and we're going to shoot at a target 21 times. Why 21 times? I have no idea. We had enough ammo to shoot 21 times. It kind of just stuck. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to make it happen. The one thing that I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and the thing that we really understand is that when you set forth a goal, you know, especially the first time you're trying to accomplish something of any meaning, you know, it's going to be a first step. And I'll tell you, I was a little disheartened that I only trained 50 women to the finish line. Just get started and pick up momentum. Unseen forces will come to your aid. You will need to go places you've never gone. You will need to talk to people you've never talked to. And you will build alliances you never conceived. But the key thing is to keep going and keep offering what you have to the universe, and it will conspire to give you everything that you need. Thank you.
Great panel. I wish I had more time for everybody. I really do. One of my favorite people on earth, Ron Dezell. DC Project.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Ron Dezell. I was the lead plaintiff in Dezell versus City of Chicago, winning 2 federal lawsuits to bring gun ranges to the city for law-abiding citizens. I'm also the president and co-founder of Chicago Guns Matter, as well as one of the delegates for the DC project, one of the Illinois delegates for the DC project. So as we look around the country today, we see our government is hell-bent on taking away our fundamental constitutional rights. And we can take a look, because we're talking about moving gun rights forward in the minority community, correct? So what we know is that the government has always had policies in place to restrict the rights for African Americans to own firearms. We can take a look at the Gun Control Act of 1968. When you start there, you take a look at people like Robert F. Williams from North Carolina, who started the Black Rifle Club to keep the KKK in check. We can take a look at Huey P. Newton, who started the Black Panther Party to keep a check on the police. He also led those guys to the Capitol, open carry. And that is the reason the government said, no, we can't have that. It's always been no guns for Negroes, right? The government takes this as a threat. So that is why they placed a ban. As a lifelong resident of the city of on how this goes. We had a total ban on firearm ownership for over 3 decades. You know how the game goes. At the end of the day, we're winning. Because when we're moving these gun rights forward, we can talk about Mr. Otis McDonald, the lead plaintiff in the McDonald versus Chicago case, who took Chicago to the Supreme Court to restore rights to have a gun in the home. You can take a look at the Ezell versus City of Chicago, winning 2 federal lawsuits to build gun ranges in the city for law-abiding citizens. We have Michael Moore versus the state of Illinois, versus Madigan, and that would restore concealed carry. So collectively, moving these rights forward for the minority community is the work that we put forward, and we did it collectively. Today is a new day. We now more than ever are seeing men and women in the Black and urban communities getting involved, being proactive in educating themselves, getting involved in protecting their families and their loved ones. We see more pro-2A organizations, gun clubs, etc. It is very important that the people in the Black and urban communities continue these things, Get involved, become a trainer, learn how to legally obtain a concealed carry license if that's what you need in your state. Get involved with educating the next generation of gun owners in the Black community. Because we're not going to see another day like the days of our great-grandparents, who every day had to fight and struggle to stay alive from the Ku Klux Klan. We're all aware of that. We are responsible for our own safety. Let's not outsource our safety to the United States government. So pay attention, because it doesn't matter what your ethnic background is, what your financial status is, or what your profession is. They're coming for all of our rights, not just some people's rights. But I want to say this. We've heard a lot about the measures that are in place that affects the Black community or the minority community because of cost and things of that nature. That's why we fight so hard to keep these bills from becoming law. But we need something more. Because even if those things take place, and in my hometown, Chicago, even if they can afford it or it was waived and they can go, they still have nowhere to go. So build a gun range. Be that person in this room that knows someone that is willing to invest so that when they do, they will have a place to go to continue their firearm safety training and education. Okay? I'll leave you with this. Women are now leading the fight in the gun rights movement. I am located in the DC Project, 50 women from 50 states, a nonpartisan educational initiative, going to DC every year to speak with our legislators as gun owners. We would need your support on that end as well. You can go to the dcproject.info. If you would like to support Chicago Guns Matter, you could see me before I go. Thank you.
Oh, isn't she great? I love it. Erin Powell, head of the largest pro-gun LGBTQ group in the country, Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols. And Erin is really blazing the trail here and has been for the last couple of years. Welcome.
Thank you for setting the height. That's perfect. Hi, my name is Aaron Collette, and as was mentioned, I am the founder of Operation Blazing Sword and the national coordinator for the Pink Pistols, which means that I am the head of the largest pro-gun queer group in the nation. I am also a single-issue activist, and that issue is the Second Amendment. Because without the right to keep and bear arms, without the means to defend my life against those who hate me for who I am and for who I love, all other rights are meaningless. This panel is about how to grow gun rights. What would you say if I told you that there was a veritable ocean of support here in America that, if accessed, would make our Second Amendment rights unassailable by the government? It's true, but in order to reach them, you need to be a single-issue activist like I am. So let's just do some quick back-of-the-envelope math here. The population of America is 327 million people. Reported firearm ownership is 30%. All right, we all know that it's higher than that, but let's just go with that low number for now. 30% of 327 million is 98 million and some change. We'll just round that up to 100 million to make the math easier and to account for some of those unreported guns. So the biggest gun rights group in America today is, despite all their troubles, the NRA. And their membership is 5 million. All right, so let's add Gun Owners of America, that's 2 million. SAF, that's 1 million. All of the other groups. All right, maybe that adds up to another 5 million. That's still 90 million gun owners who, for whatever reason, aren't represented by pro-Second Amendment groups which have the ear of Washington, D.C. Now, pro-gun votes are good and fine and necessary. I'm not going to disparage them, but if the past year has taught us anything, it's that anti-gun messages need to be stopped and preferably countered before they reach the president's ear. Now, if the NRA, the organization that represents only 5% of all non-gun owners, is the big bad boogeyman of Capitol Hill, which can scare politicians into doing what they want to do, can you imagine what a pro-Second Amendment organization representing a voting bloc of 100 million voters will accomplish? It will make politicians fetch their brown trousers. So how do we access this ocean of support? Now the answer is very easy, but the cost is something which many of us will be loath to give up: our partisanship. We have pro-Second Amendment allies within the ranks of libertarians and liberals. But some of us are actively turning those allies away by calling them names and wrongly assuming that anyone who isn't conservative is anti-gun. I have lost track of the number of people who have told me that they are pro-gun, that they own guns, that they believe in gun rights, but they aren't members of any gun rights group because those groups have bundled other political views, such as abortion or immigration or economic policy, into their Second Amendment advocacy. And that bundling, that partisanship, that lack of single issue focus is costing us allies by the tens of millions. If you are truly a single issue activist like me, you will reach out to those who you call your ideological opponents, and in the name of the Second Amendment, in the name of keeping ourselves and our families safe, in the name of freedom, you will begin a dialogue with them about what we have in common and what we value most, and how we can best come together to defend that which we hold most precious. If you are truly single issue, you will teach firearms safety and operation to those with whom you disagree politically. You will take them shooting. You will help them pick out guns for hunting and self-defense, and for, yes, defense against tyranny. You will show them, not just through your words, but through your actions and through your character, that you truly believe that the Second Amendment is for everyone, including them, not just for those who vote a certain way. And to do otherwise means that you are letting ideology stand in the way of true Second Amendment activism. Reach out to liberals. Reach out to minorities, reach out to queer people, reach out to everyone you know in order to make them enthusiastic about gun rights. Make gun rights unassailable by making firearm ownership and activism not just something that conservatives do, or white people do, or old people do. Make it something that American people do. Make the Second Amendment American again. If you do this, I guarantee you that our Second Amendment rights will be preserved for generations to come. I'm Eric Pallette. I am a single issue activist. Are you?
Told you. This is a great panel. Piper Smith, founder and director of Armed Equality, next.
Hello. My name is Piper Smith. I am the founder and director of Armed Equality. Armed Equality is the most active LGBT-centric self-defense and civil rights group in the United States. I got involved in the 2A world after I developed the self-knowledge that I am a member of the LGBT community. That self-discovery took place shortly prior That self-discovery took place shortly prior to the horrific attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Realizing that I was personally at greater risk of attack to who I love, combined with a strong desire to do something to help after the largest mass murder since
9/11. Brought me down a path that brought me here in front of you today. Rather than illogically becoming an anti-activist, as many in the LGBT community chose to do, I instead set out to help LGBT Americans learn how to become hard targets instead of soft targets. Since Pulse, I have facilitated nearly 100 events ranging from CCW workshops, pistol, shotgun, rifle training, 2-day comprehensive and realistic medical mass casualty training, wilderness survival training, and education covering the individual and collective rights that we possess naturally, that are not God-given, but pre-existing, when interacting with law enforcement, legalities surrounding defensive firearm use, etc. Over the last few years, I've started to shift from focusing solely on local events to working with the national leadership in the Second Amendment community, the state leadership in the Second Amendment community, and the local leadership in the Second Amendment American community. At the same time, we've actually had more progress than expected in reaching out to the mainstream LGBT community and convincing them to reanalyze what is usually a pretty default anti-Second Amendment position. Beyond what I've been doing with armed equality, I'd like to take the remainder of my extremely limited time here today to share a message with you that I know you will help us spread to the broader Second Amendment community. That message is as follows. We all seem to logically know that we need all the allies that we can possibly get to protect the Second Amendment. We've heard yesterday about all the billionaires that we're up against. I believe that we are not in a position to be exclusionary to non-traditional demographics. We're not in a position to turn people away who want to help with what we all dedicate our lives to doing. That being said, I don't think that pragmatic argument is actually necessarily the most powerful argument to be made for advocation of inclusivity of the non-traditional demographics. I believe the most powerful argument is an argument based from morality. I'm a human being. I operate under the assumption that I will only live once. I might be wrong, that's the assumption I'm operating under. Being inclusive in the fight for civil rights is the right thing to do. I believe it is the moral thing to do. The anti-Second Amendment, the anti-LGBT memes and rhetoric and jokes that are currently rampant within certain circles in the Second Amendment community range all the way from the dark recesses of those semi-private Facebook social media groups that many of us are aware of, all the way up to some of the leadership of some of the largest Second Amendment organizations in this country. This needs to stop. It needs to stop now. When it comes to fighting for our civil rights, we need to leave the hyperpartisanship at the door. When it comes to defending our Second Amendment rights, we need to leave the hyper-partisanship at the door. I'm a flawed human being. We all are. But at the end of my days, I hope to be able to say that I did my best, that I saved some lives, that I opened doors, that I decreased ignorance, and that I brought a little more love into the world. Everyone in this room already knows that armed equality is real equality. It's everyone outside of this room that we need to focus on. So let's stop tripping and shoving each other. Let's stop mocking the new folks for asking questions that we asked when we were new. Let's focus a little bit on being truly inclusive, being truly persuasive, even when that requires encountering and overcoming. Let's all work together to save lives and to protect our natural rights. Thank you.
job. Michael. All right, final speaker on this panel. This is someone I've known for many, many years. It doesn't call him Stour Runner. I can't call him Nicole. I got to call him Nikki. It's Nikki Stour, California spokesperson, Pink Pistols, and Operation Blazing Sword co-director, Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki Stour, California Pink Pistols. Quick show of hands, who here before today heard of the Pink Pistols? Awesome. Real quick, Pink Pistols, LGBTQ, gun rights, our motto, armed gays don't get bashed. You guys cool with that? My speech today, the good, the bad, the good, and each other's rights. As humans, we have far more that unites us than divides us. In dealing with conservatives over the years, I have found them to be far more open-minded and tolerant than the tolerant left. I am honored to be in a room full of liberty-loving, true Americans. Give yourselves a hand. And quickly turn to their person next to you and high-five them. Please. This is your event. Now, I'm going to discuss some of the bad. I'm resigning my official position with Pink Pistols in Operation Blazing Sword. Aaron and I are good, better than ever. We work and are good at continual work and continue to work together. Let's say my reasoning, the weaponized deep state, is something I felt necessary to do to protect Pink Pistols in Operation Blazing Sword. Censorship is real. The First Amendment is under siege. I refuse to be silenced. I'm free to pursue my destiny. I'm unchained. The ugly. The leftists seek to destroy what's left of our republic. It is more than our guns. It is everything. It is your hopes, your purpose, your dreams. Not just yours, but your children, your grandchildren. That's what the fight is about. We have the facts, but our foes have the feelings. Facts get people thinking. Emotions get people acting. Our brains are wired 24 times more to be responsive to emotion. Logic loses to emotion every time. We are humans, not Vulcans. Fear, a powerful emotion. When people are scared, they will surrender other people's rights for perceived safety. I have a term that I want you all to start using. IMF. Doesn't stand for Impossible Mission Force or International Monetary Fund. It stands for ignorance, misinformation, and fear. Because that's what our opponents use against us. Our opponents use IMF to scare the masses to attack our rights. We're individualists. We're like herds of cats. Cows. Stampeding cows stomp on cats. So how do we win? God. Can I hear one for God? God has blessed each one of us with unique gifts, skills, and talents. God gave all of us strength, but together as a team, we're unstoppable. Me is strong, but we is invincible. So, how do we win? Embrace change. We must leave our comfort zones. How do we win? Be adaptable. That will allow us to go on counter-offensives. It will allow us to bring the fight to them. Make them scared of us. How do we win? Find common ground with others. All rights are interdependent. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is a chain. It's only strong as its weakest link. The real single issue that unites us more than guns. It is freedom! How do we win? Jesus didn't hang out in the echo chamber. He went out to the people. We must do the same. How do we win? Show non-gun owners that we are responsible, that we are public assets. How do we win? In short, rights and responsibility go hand in hand. Knowledge, truth, and courage, KTC, that's how we win. KTC, if this is right, destroys IMF. We can always make our foes choke on their IMF. When our foes operate our lives, their arguments are built on quicksand. We need to focus on being effective versus being right. We must evolve from independent cats into coordinated lion packs. Together, we'll feast on prime rib. Being American is a gift from God. Billions of people around the world will trade places with any one of us. Previous generations paid for freedom with their blood. We know future generations no less. In closing, I haven't changed. I'm going to have some fun, so should you. Thank you for giving me the honor to speak to all of you.
Expect nothing less than that from Nikki here. Did you guys hear that? Was that okay? All right. Next panel coming up is using new media to advance gun rights. Thank you guys. Great panel. That was a great panel, by the way. Outstanding.
Give me a warning before you start.
We'll do it.
5 seconds.
I gotta be honest, we're only running about 5 minutes behind, all things considered. So we'll move ahead quickly. This panel consists of Charlie Cook, YouTube host, riding shotgun to Charlie, Don Irvine, accuracy and media, Paul Latham, we know John Richardson, blogger, only guns, and Monty Blog, Dean Weingart, we know Dean, and Dan Zimmerman. It's going to start with Charlie Cook. Charlie, come on up, brother.
I have to follow Nick Stone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I am pro-gun. You guys know how it goes at the other meetings, right? Hi, my name is Charlie, and I'm pro-gun. We don't go to the same meetings, do we? You say, hi, Charlie. Thank you all for being here. It's great to be here. I started making videos in I started making videos in 2015. I started making videos where I play the trumpet with one hand and I shoot a gun with the other hand. I did start making them with an AR-15. Since I live in Massachusetts, I play longer pieces of music. When I started making these, I started making them on, I've been making videos since I had an iPhone 4S. Yeah, that's how old I am. I've been making videos that long. I started sharing these on my social media, and I started by doing I call these videos gun brand videos, but I started by doing them and playing Happy Birthday. And I shared them on all my media, and then my friends asked me if I would make videos for them. And things expanded from Happy Birthday to TV shows and theme songs and all sorts of other stuff. So I've been making videos for a while. I put them on YouTube. It's very cool to say that I've made videos on my phone and they've been watched 20 million times all over the world. And there you go. If you know anyone that knows someone who's stationed on Antarctica, that's the only continent somebody hasn't watched one of my videos on. So I want to get video of somebody watching one of my videos in Antarctica. After I started making the gun gram videos, I had this idea after watching Carpool Karaoke. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It's late night TV host James Corden. He's interviewed rock stars in his car as he drove around and grabbed a coffee. And I looked at him and I said, wow, he's chubby and he's English. And I said, I'm chubby and I can speak English. I could probably do what he does. I wanted to hang out with rock stars in my community. So I ended up actually interviewing Mark Walters in Minneapolis one year. And he called me the day after he did the interview, he's like, hey man, that was really cool. Let's have you speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in a month. And it catapulted me to hang out in the big leagues with these people here. I want to say if I can learn to make videos, you can too. A lot of people up here talk about doing challenges, and I challenge you to this, and I challenge you to that. When people say I challenge you to something, I always say this. I challenge you to a duel. How about that? How about that on video? Exactly. I don't want to challenge anyone to anything. I want to inspire you. I want to motivate you to try and make videos on your own. These are the videos you need to try. Try to make videos when you take a new shooter out to the range. Put it on your social media. Most of the phones that we have editing software, and you can slice the video up a little bit. It takes a little bit of time to play around with this and figure out how to do that. But you can do all this. You can put these videos up on social media. You can talk with your friends. You can share it with them. And if something doesn't work, do something else. Let people see that we are regular folks. We like to have fun, we like to go out, we like to shoot, and whether we're shooting at cans or just shooting at targets or shooting at dirt or whatever it is we like to shoot at, make some video of that because people like to share that. And with the way that social media is changing and evolving, video is going to be a new platform where everyone keeps putting their stuff. So take someone out, take them shooting. I am trying to bring fun ownership to gun ownership. And I am trying to take Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I am trying to take the stagecoach across America. Thank you very much.
It was fun riding shotgun with Charlie too in Minneapolis. Don Irvine, share accuracy in media. Come on up.
It's always good to be back here with everybody here at the GRPC. So just as a brief start here, so I work for a media organization, Accuracy in Media, and started by my father 50 years ago this month. Little did we know back then that we were going to spend 50 years fighting fake news. It wasn't coined back then, but we certainly have been fighting that. And there's been plenty of fake news, particularly recently, on the gun movement, right? On gun rights and what's going on around the country here. We're seeing a lot of bad things going on. There's a lot of great ways to use new media, social media, in terms of doing this. What Charlie is doing is one aspect of that. Plus, besides doing the videos, he also has a podcast, just like Paul does. And these are things that are worth supporting. When Jeff Knox was talking earlier about, giving a few bucks to thing, my thought really says is that you're not just supporting it, you're making an investment in the movement with these people. They need it. I don't think that Charlie or Paul or others will say that they're in it for the money, right? Right? Anybody who's familiar with this knows that that's not the driving force of this. It is the cause. It's the passion we have for Second Amendment rights. And we see what's going on in today's world, and we want to stop this. We want to combat this. Charlie's right too. Use video. Video is maybe one of the premier platforms. I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts. I listen to their podcasts while I'm at the gym or in the car, doing traveling, whatever. That's a great way. That's one way of doing things. It's very easy to do a podcast nowadays, so things continue. Technology continues to make things cheap. Most of us, I've seen a few flip phones around here, but most of us have got a smartphone. And you can do that. Just like you can make videos, you can also create a podcast. There's an app called Anchor. And you can do this. You just download that app and you can create a podcast. The great thing about that too is that all this stuff about getting it on Google Play or Apple Podcasts, you can actually do those submissions through Anchor. Anchor is owned by Spotify, the big music streaming service. So there's a lot of power, there's a lot of money behind that, and you can have that done. So it's very easy to do. You don't have to be, anything fancy. And a podcast, the nice thing is that you can have the face for a podcast, right? You don't have to broadcast yourself in that way, right? It's just your voice and your thoughts and your passions that are going out there. But I also think that, we can't ignore Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter /Periscope. Also very powerful ways of using video. these platforms continue to grow. They're not growing necessarily as fast as they used to, but they are continuing to grow, and they provide a very easy platform for you to do things. Once again, you really only need a smartphone and maybe a microphone and some, very little equipment, very small investment to get going. But you need to be passionate, as Charlie was saying. Show everybody who you are. I mean, we're real people. I think, you can get engaged on Twitter, not just by video, but you can get engaged in conversations with people on the other side. But, we need to show them that we're not only real people and just ordinary people, but we're thoughtful, we're passionate, and we have the facts. And don't get into this thing where you start going down a rabbit hole where you're going to get into an argument where you start actually messing up. Because that's exactly what they want you to do. They want to elevate that. They want to be able to go back and say, see that gun right person? That person's a nutcase. Do you just see what they just said to me? You can use social media very, very effectively. But and your passion, but sometimes you may have to bridle your passion a little bit. Social media, while as good as it is, it also is a chance where you see a lot of stuff going out, where people they put things out, but they put things out before they really think about it. Before you tweet, write out, go ahead and write out your tweet, but then think about it before you go ahead and say you're going to send it, because that's the kind of thing. But anyway, there's so many fashions, there's so many different aspects of social media we have at our disposal. Use them all, use them well.
Paul Wilbrook, Polite Society Podcast, really needs no introduction, but here he is.
Hey everybody, Paul Lather, Polite Society Podcast. I want to start off by thanking you, because of you, I'm standing in front of the safest room in the United States. You made it. Using new media to advance gun rights. I want to, first of all, start off with a little bit of audience participation. If you would please, if you have in the past 30 days watched the NBC, CBS, or ABC evening news, if you'd raise your hand. There's a few of you that have. If in the last 30 days you have watched a podcast on video or listened to a podcast or read a blog involving gun rights, would you please raise your hands? I think almost everybody here has raised their hands. Old legacy media, and I heard that term coined this for the first time this week. Legacy media is dying. Newspapers, printed newspapers are dying. Everybody is getting their information on the internet. And just like has been said several times on this panel already, it is super easy to do new media. All you need is your phone. We've got sitting over there several $1,000s in equipment. And we've got more than 8 people that has helped us get this online. Do you need all that? Nope. You need what you already got. The decision to elect President George W. Bush over Al Gore was decided in Florida by 450 people. That's how close it was once all the hanging chads were done. If we can influence 450 people between this whole audience, which I believe, by the way, if you're at GRPC, you're hardcore. If you're at GRPC Sunday, you are the hardcore of the hardcore. And by the way, if you're still here when I'm talking, when we're less than an hour and a half from being done, you're the hardcore of the hardcore of the hardcore. If we can influence 500 people in one state, we could swing the next election. I'm not Superman, but I know how to podcast. I know how to put a YouTube video out. We've got a network of people that would love to help you get your voice out. We are not in a competition here. I would love to have you be 10 times more successful than I am. I would love to have you be 20 times more successful than Mark Walters is. I want our message to get out. If I can help you get our message out, reach out to me, Paul at politicsandguns.com. I'll help you get involved any way I can. I want us to win. I want our rights to advance. In order for that to happen, you need to get involved too.
Moving right along before we get to the end of this panel here, next is John Richardson, blogger, Only Guns and Money blog. John.
Hi, I'm John Richardson of the blog No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money. I'm also a co-host of the Polite Society podcast. I had a rude awakening about a month and a half ago. I woke up to find that Google's blogger had taken my blog down and was threatening to delete it. I could not even access it to back it up my 9.5 years of work. My blood ran cold at the thought of losing all that work. I immediately appealed. Well, I was erroneously accused of violating the terms of service for facilitating the sale or selling a regulated item. I was put in the same category as drug dealers and other purveyors of prohibited or regulated items. I immediately appealed. I got tremendous support from the gun rights community. Dave Workman wrote an article about it for Liberty Park Press. Tom Knighton covered it at bearingarms.com. People aimed tweets at Google and Blogger. There were posts about it on Facebook. 2 days later, I got an email from bloggers saying, in essence, oops, we made a mistake. You didn't violate anything. So sorry. I'm telling you this not to gain your sympathy. I tell it to show how we are at the mercy of big tech oligopolies. There have been plenty of stories about gun rights supporters being suspended or banned from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Second Amendment Foundation just recently. We have seen the demonetization of firearms-related YouTube videos, and thanks to leaks, we know that through the use of algorithms and keyword lists, that there is a conscious effort to suppress our voices and advocacy of the Second Amendment, self-defense, and gun rights. I got complacent, and we have gotten complacent. The social media giants have made it so easy to be involved in social media that we forgot something. That something was it that if you don't control the means of getting the message out, it can be turned off at a whim and you are at their mercy. I decided never again. I bought my own domain name, and thanks to my friend Bill Shakas, a Firearms Chat podcast, I was hooked up with a 2A friendly host, Patriot Hosting. We need to do 3 things. First, we need to control our hosting and not to be dependent upon companies that would sell us out in a heartbeat. Second, we actually need to explore going back to some of the older technologies, such as firearms, forums, old-fashioned bulletin board systems, because they're beyond the reach of tech oligarchs. Now I'm going to clarify, I am not advocating going back to your 2400 baud modem, dialing up long distance to your favorite gun board. I've been there. And then we should also seek out some of the newer things. Mainly, Full 30, Declan McCullough's talking that he spoke about yesterday. The late Professor Brian Patrick, who spoke at GRPC a number of times, called how we communicate the anti-media. He spoke and wrote about it extensively. Professor Patrick credited horizontal interpretive communities and how they communicated with the passage of shall issue carry laws in Florida and elsewhere. Translated into non-social science speak, that means gun rights supporters and potential allies talk to one another, plan their strategies, organize through the use of newsletters, forums, and bulletin board systems that were outside the notice of the legacy media. The key phrase here, they talk to one another, which is what we're doing here today. They talked to one another as equals. It was not top down like our opponents. You may never want to be a blogger, a podcaster, a YouTuber, or any other type of content creator. Nonetheless, you can help those of us who are by providing us leads, tips, and other information. Some of my best blog posts have come from this. We are all in this together, we are a community, and we can all help one another to protect, preserve, and enhance our Second Amendment rights. Thank you.
Great talk, Dean Weingarten, blogger and regular guest on Lock and Load Radio with Bill Frady.
Good afternoon. I want to thank Mark and Alan and SAF for being here. My name is Dean Weingarten. Most of my work is published on AMOLAB. Yesterday, Freddie Reel, who's the publisher and one of the owners of AMOLAB, told me, he said, Dean, you're the most read gun writer on the internet. I hope writing about 3,000 articles helps. You are still here. That means you are the doers. We are involved in a great struggle to throw off the yoke of the mediocrity. The old media controlled the information flow for almost 50 years. They controlled what were considered the important issues. They controlled what was considered a scandal. They controlled who was considered acceptable for office. They controlled the narrative. ABC, NBC, CBS, or New York Times, Washington Post, AP. They all told the same stories with the same tape and the same narrative. Technological changes and people getting sick of the manipulation by the mediocrity changed that. We now have an opportunity to create new media, and new media is making a difference. President Trump would not have been elected without the new media. You and I are the new media. We are the tip of the spear. There are three things you need to do as part of the new media to be effective. Many things have been covered here before, but the three things I ask you to do are phone and a digital recorder. All of those things allow you to record things. They're just as important to fighting for freedom as the pistol, the shotgun, and the rifle. They are your freedom tools. Use them. Then you need to report what you've recorded. Report it on social media, on a website, on forums. Get the word out. Don't allow the mediocrity to control the word use. They have all kinds of Orwellian words that they have created to control us. Words like gun violence, buybacks, assault weapons, recovered. Words like these are a primary weapon of the mediocrity. We are the new media. If we win, the media becomes distributed and controlled and directed by the oligarchs who have Google and Facebook and cooperate directly with the deep state. Don't let that happen. Record, people read the comments. When you're commenting, don't attack the other guy. Remember, you're not really trying to convince him, you're trying to convince the other people that are reading. Once he attacks you personally, you have won the argument. Remember that. If you get attacked personally, it's not a sign you're losing, it's a sign you have won. Finally, I urge you all to pray. God is on our side, and and I believe he's on the side.
Actually, we use new media. We tweet each other's stuff and retweet each other's stuff all the time. And he's a source of information.
AWR at Breitbart and Stephen Gutowski at the Free Beacon. Too many of them talk about the other side of the equation. When they talk to a Shannon Watts, when they talk about is the other side of that equation. And what Alan mentioned is that he wanted everybody to come out of this weekend with some new tools and ideas to go out, and when you're talking to people, when you're advocating for the Second Amendment, keep these things in mind. Well, here's one thing to keep in mind. Depending on who you talk to, depending on who's doing the cases in this country, the vast majority of them, 90+% of them, without ever pulling a trigger. Those are assaults, robberies, rapes, murders, prevented, that don't happen. Making semi-automatic pistols that are extra scary, illegal. Ask them this. Ask them how many more robberies, rapes, murders are you willing to live with in order to achieve that goal of fewer firearms in civilian hands? And then reach in your pocket and get a handkerchief or a Kleenex, because that person's they're gonna be frozen there because they usually can't answer that question. But that is the other side of the equation. You're talking about people who want fewer people in this country to have the ability to defend themselves using firearms. What you're talking about is fewer people being able to use firearms defensively to defend themselves, to defend their families, and prevent those crimes from happening. So just an idea to keep in your trigger, in your quiver as you go forward. That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. That does it for this panel. And I can now introduce someone I'm really proud to call a friend of mine. I've known him for years. He's been on my radio program a number of times. In fact, if you're listening to Armed American Radio tonight, by any chance, he will be on for 3 segments. He is the president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, Sheriff Richard Mack, and he is a badass.
Mark, everybody, for having me here. I only live an hour away, so it wasn't too hard for me. I live in Gilbert, but while I've been here, I've reiterated some of my feelings about government and Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And we train sheriffs and peace officers all across this country to do one simple thing: keep your oath. And I'm proud to have worked extensively with Oath Keepers, and Oath Keepers president and founder is here also, Stuart Rhodes. But I want to pose that question to everybody. What are we about? What is the purpose of America? What is the purpose of our government? What is the purpose of separation of powers? What is the purpose of your dog catcher? What is the purpose of your city council? What is the purpose of your governor, your state legislature, your United States Congress? Sometimes we really wonder about that. What's the purpose that we have a president? What is the purpose that we have an executive and judicial and legislative branch? You know that the goal is just one simple little thing? It's liberty. It's liberty. Do you know why we have sheriffs? It's liberty. It's not writing tickets. It's not arresting all the drug dealers. It's not stopping DUIs or having DUI checkpoints. Some of the numbers there, I have supported. I was in law enforcement 20 years. I certainly made DUI arrests and did so frequently. But the ultimate goal is not the numbers of people that we arrest. The ultimate goal is individual liberty. Are we protecting liberty? Are we making sure that if some people simply want to be left alone that we're making sure their right to be left alone is being fulfilled. When I was sheriff here in Arizona, I did something really super crazy. I actually sued the Clinton administration. And that was actually, yeah. Well, I actually, there's a miracle there also. I sued the Clintons and lived to tell about it. But along that line, you might also look at the history of that. I'm the only person to sue Bill Clinton on a non-sexual matter. And our deal actually, when I was sheriff, Joe Arpaio and I were sheriff for 4 years, and there's only 15 counties in Arizona. We're not like you Midwesterners that need 100 counties, and Texas that has 254. Of course, they're kind of big, but we only have 15 counties here, and they're some of the biggest in the country, except for San Bernardino in California. But we had 13 at a meeting, and the BATF shows up, and none of us sheriffs, we'd already heard about the Brady Bill. It had come out a couple of months before that, but it was going to take effect February 28th. This meeting was January 21st, and there's 3 agents of the BATF there, and they hand each of us sheriffs a document that said what we had to do to enforce the Brady Bill. Believe me, you never heard so much cussing in your life. No sheriff supported this at all. Democrat or Republican, didn't matter. Nobody supported this. Why? Because the federal government was commandeering sheriffs for federal bidding. We don't work for you. You know the President of the United States cannot tell your sheriff what to do? You know who your boss is? You know who your sheriff's boss is? It's you, and only you. He doesn't report to anybody else. The governor is not your sheriff's boss. That's what makes us a republic, especially a constitutional republic. He only answers to his constituents. You are his boss. And in that, he promised you, when he took his job, he promised you in solemn oath that he would uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Therein lies the program and the contract that he has with you. He can't violate that even if you ask him to. He took a solemn oath. And so this boils down to very fundamental beliefs and very fundamental principles. And I wrote a book about it right after I did, well, a few years after I did the lawsuit. And it's called The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And any of you would like a copy of this, I have actually copies out at the Gun Owners of America table. They left early and I took over the table. But I did it with their permission. But this is the deal. On October 12th, we have sheriffs from all over the country and a chief of police who have announced publicly that they will no longer and will never enforce gun control laws in their jurisdictions. On October 12th, we're going to honor these people, and they're coming here to speak in Mesa, Arizona. And I have tickets to that event. And what would this event been here? What would this event have been if only 20 or 40 showed up? And I'm fearing that that's going to happen on our event because I've found out there's 2 other big events happening on the same day right here in Arizona. And man, I wish I had known that because we would not have had it. We probably would have moved it to December 15th, which is Bill of Rights Day. And we need to honor these sheriffs and Chief of Police Lauren Culp from Washington, Republic Washington, who now is running for governor of Washington. And he's coming here, and we're going to give him the Chief of Police of the Year Award, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association Chief of Police Award. And another sheriff in Washington, Sheriff Songer, is getting the Sheriff of the Year. And we're doing some Lifetime Achievement Awards. If we're not going to stand behind these guys that are risking their lives and their careers for the Second Amendment and for our Constitution, I'm afraid we're going to be embarrassed. And so I'm asking you to do what Kevin Dixie said earlier. It's not in the hearing, it's in the doing. And I need you there at that event. It's right here in Mesa, Arizona, right downtown. I have tickets, I have flyers. Please come out to the table and get involved in this most worthy cause. I am literally asking you to join us in the holy cause of liberty, in protecting and defending the Second Amendment and our entire Constitution. It really reminds me of when Washington was at Valley Forge right before he went to the Trenton to beat the Hessians. And who did he call? Who did he call? Yeah, he got on his cell phone. Who did he summon to Valley Forge to motivate the man? None other than Thomas Paine. And I have that first paragraph of the American Crisis here in my hand. These are times that try men's souls. Boy, we all know that, don't we? And then he came up with his metaphor, the summer soldier and sunshine patriot. Do we have a few of those around? Boy, we've got to do more. And right now, we've invited 100 high school seniors and college students to attend that seminar that day so that we can kind of reprogram them and have them get to know that law enforcement is here to protect rights. Because that is what all government is for. Where do we see that? Can you tell me the quote from the Constitution where we see what government's for? No, but you can sure find it in the Declaration of Independence. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. And then I really love how Thomas Paine takes this, and he talks about how Britain, with an army to enforce her tyranny. Sometimes I feel like our United States government has that same thing, IRS, BATF, FDA, on and on and on, that have nothing to do with following the Constitution, but their own regulations, and people go to prison for that. Innocent people go to prison for those sort of things. And now, the founders really objected to the Stamp Act. And so what does King George III and Parliament do? They repeal it to shove it in our face, because then they enact the Declaratory Act, which did this: to bind us in all cases whatsoever. To bind us in all cases whatsoever. And then he asked the question, does the United States Congress act like they can bind us in all cases whatsoever? Do they act like they can pass anything they want? Even if it's expressly forbidden in the Bill of Rights, they still think they can do it. And so the brainwashing continues. And Thomas Paine completely strikes a blow at such falderal. And he said, if that be not slavery, then slavery does not exist on earth. Even the expression is impious, for so unlimited a power can belong only to God. My dear friends, these rights are bestowed upon us by nature, and nature's God. I so hope that we will keep that going. I ask for your assistance. Join us, be with us, cspoa.org. I'll meet you out at the table. God bless America. Thank you so much for having me.
Toughest part of the day was having to walk up behind the show. I'm going to try to be there October 12th too. Julianne?
Thank you.
Everybody, I want to let you know that we're not finished yet. We'd love to have you stay for the resolutions, and we have a suicide prevention panel coming up in just a few moments as well, too, okay? That'll be getting here. The resolutions committee is going to be up right now, so if everybody would stay seated. Thank you.
Okay, before everybody's gone, I'm going to start. I'm Jeannie Jennings. I'm co-chair of the Resolutions Committee. And in my other life, I'm a fly fisherman. You can't hear me? Oh, there you go. This is the memberships part of the Gun Rights Policy Conference. We hear a lot of experts on a lot of things through the day, a lot of lawyers. These resolutions come from the delegates, which is you, and they're approved by the delegates, which is you. And the real function of them is to give us something that we can take home and do ourselves without going through a law degree. Resolutions are submitted by and adopted by the delegates in attendance at GRPC. Criteria used for the committee are: a resolution must be signed and legible. It must be applicable for the entire United States. It must be for the general membership of the conference and not a suggestion for any particular group or organization. And it must include an action that can be taken. The resolutions are not meant to make the attendees feel good, but to be a motivation for the work to which they will devote themselves during the year. Resolutions, therefore, represent the future of gun rights. Resolution 1, amended farmer resolution submitted by the Resolution Committee. Whereas in May of 1986, Congress passed and the President signed into law the Firearm Owners Protection Act, and a provision of that legislation was the ban of importations and manufacture of machine guns, which need not have been included had the nation's gun owners so advocated. And whereas in the fall of 1986, at the first Gun Rights Policy Conference held in Bellevue, Washington, Mrs. Linda Farmer of Georgia introduced a resolution that any attack on one class of firearms is an attack on all classes of firearms. And whereas the Farmer resolution was approved by the delegates in attendance without opposition and has been proposed and approved by the delegates in attendance at every gun rights policy conference since 1986, and whereas further constrictions on firearms, ammunition, and components of each continue to be made, and whereas the Second Amendment guarantees the right to keep and bear arms, and arms are not limited to firearms, it is resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that gun owners across the nation continue to support the Farmer Doctrine amended to: an attack on any class of arms or components thereof is an attack on all classes of arms. What would the delegates choose to do? Do I have a second? Is there any discussion?
Point of order. Can I ask if there is discussion that people please use this microphone over here? That way everybody can hear what they say.
Okay, does everybody understand that microphone right there? Okay. Hearing no discussion, we'll have a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Resolution 2, submitted by the Resolutions Committee. This is also a long-term resolution that's been going on now for 10 to 15 years. Whereas we have a right to life, we have a right to protect that life and the lives of those around us. We therefore have a right to the means to do so. And whereas gun-free zones deny us the means to protect our lives and thereby put our lives at risk, Now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that gun-free zones be eliminated wherever they exist. Motion's adopted and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution 3, submitted by Dwight Christensen. Whereas many gun laws are purported to be for reducing attacks and violence to innocent targets or victims, and whereas no one wants more violence to occur to more victims. Now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that all existing gun restrictions shall be modified to be applicable only to that person who is in the act of committing a crime of violence or attack on another person's property. The committee recommendation on this was not unanimous. It was as close to 50-50 as 7 members can make something. Do I have enough? What would the membership like to do? Do I have anyone would like to say a motion? Do I have a second? Do you want any discussion on this?
Discussion.
Okay.
One thing that under the therefore under this resolution, under therefore on this resolution, all of these resolutions are required to provide for something for people to take home from the conference, to take action on when they get home. And the way this resolution is currently written, there is no action to take home. It just says all existing gun restrictions should be modified to only be applicable. And it needs to be rewritten at least to say that the delegates will go home and work with their state and local legislatures to take action that would modify their laws to do this. So right now, in the form that it's in, I think that it either needs to be rewritten or it's out of order.
Would you like to offer an amendment to that?
No.
Would anyone in the audience like to offer an amendment that the therefore be changed to something? Ooh, I'm on the wrong one. I would like to offer the amendment then that delegates will attempt to have their legislators change all existing gun restrictions to modify this is a proposed amendment. Delegates will attempt to have their legislators modify all existing gun restrictions to be applicable only to that person who is in the act of committing a crime of violence or attack on another person's property. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. We're voting on the amendment to the resolution, not the resolution itself. All those in favor of the resolution? Opposed? The resolution is modified and now reads The whereas stay the same. Now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019. The delegates will attempt to have their legislators modify all existing gun restrictions to be applicable only to that person who is in the act of committing a crime of violence or attack on another person's property. All those in favor of the resolution? Opposed? I'm calling the ayes have it. Just 1 second. This resolution kind of makes them go after the criminal instead of us. Whether it would have any success is up to everybody. Resolution 4, submitted by Scott Mitzker, edited by the Resolutions Committee. Whereas the media misrepresents Second Amendment and gun issues, and whereas there are a limited number of media organizations, and whereas those media organizations are led by a particular agenda which is often anti-Second Amendment and anti-gun, and whereas this results in our First Amendment rights being infringed upon, as are our Second Amendment rights, and whereas, as Tom Gresham has said, a lie unchallenged will become the truth. Now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that when we hear and see inaccuracies in the media, we must challenge them. Go ahead. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution 5, submitted by ARK Eli Tenorio, edited by the Resolution Committee. These are edited just sometimes to make them a little briefer, sometimes to make sure they are addressing the Second Amendment, because we are a single issue group. Whereas it is important to increase pro-Second Amendment supporters, and particularly more members of the millennial and Z generations into the cause. And whereas this demographic group is involved with various social media outlets and video games, now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that we will increase our outreach to younger members who are eager to get involved in the shooting sports and ultimate. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Resolution 6, submitted by Dave Ritter, edited by the Resolutions Committee. Not much. Whereas Senate 542 Interstate Transport Act incorporates the most critical flaw in the Firearm Owners Protection Act, known as FOPA, lacking an enumerated civil right of action, and therefore sets to Second Amendment precedent for fixing this critical FOPA flaw. And abusive jurisdictions would be free to persecute knife owners who would believe that they are protected when they actually lack any meaningful recourse. And whereas H.R. 88, the Knife Owners Protection Act, addresses all of FOPA's flaws and includes an enumerated civil right of action to dissuade rogue jurisdictions, and which also repeals to the archaic and irrational 1058 Federal Switchblade Act, and which also repeals, excuse me, this was a typo, the archaic and irrational 1058 Federal Switchblade Act. Now therefore be it resolved by the delegates assembled at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Phoenix, Arizona, this 22nd day of September 2019, that we oppose passage of S542 and support passage of HR 88.
Move to adopt.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted, and that is the end of the Resolution Committee report. Your job now is to pick something you've heard this weekend or one of our resolutions and go home and work. And for those of you who are left, there's an opportunity. This has nothing to do with the Resolutions Committee. We've already done. There is a group called on Facebook, which is not one of the new media outlets that the millennials and Z's will use. But there is a group on Facebook called Friends Who Went to GRPC. And it is required that you have gone to GRPC to be included in the group. But if you have gone, and you have, and you go on Facebook, you'd be welcome to be part of that group, and it's how we keep together. It's been going on for a few years now, and it's how we keep together over the year, let each other know what we're doing, share things that come up, and keep GRPC alive through the year. So, thank you very much. And we're done. And Alex.
Folks, for those of you who want a copy of the conference, come on up to the audio table right here where I'm waving my hand and present me your thumb drive. You can have a copy of it free. Otherwise, it will be on libertywatchradio.com either tonight or tomorrow night when I finish unpacking my gear and get everything uploaded to the internet again.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks a lot.
And I want to thank the Resolutions Committee. I appreciate you working on this resolution, sticking around to the end. Thank you very, very much, all of you. It's usually Joe Totaro and myself come down to the podium at the end of the conference to close it down. I feel a little lonely up here this time without Joe. He's been at all of them. And we wish him good health and he recovers from his current illness speedily. I view this through a different lens than you do. I view it through a lens that covers a couple different things. One, was our money well spent putting it on, and was the program good? Looking at your faces, your engagement, were you involved, were you engaged? How was the audience? How were the speakers? Yes, I agree. It was talking about fantastic. I thought personally go to the speakers, which I usually never really mention. I talk about the audience, but I really want to talk about the speakers for a minute. I think the content of what was delivered at this GRPC was the single best content of all 34 we've ever had. And what really impressed me a lot about the speakers over the years, things changed. But instead of talking about what we need to do, what all our problems are all the time, you really heard about what we are doing and the accomplishments we've had, successes we've had. The fact that we, in many cases, are on the offense, not on defense, even when our opponents think we're on defense. We really, this movement has grown and metastasized to an unbelievable level, to the point that it goes far beyond the existence of needing any one group or any one person or anything. There's a gun rights movement out there that's going to make sure gun rights exist for us and our children. and our grandchildren. And I'm really, really proud of this Gun Rights Policy Conference. And you guys as an audience, every year I've noticed this, that the trends have been there. The sophistication of the audience keeps going up. The knowledge levels, knowing what's going on, plugged into what's happening, is absolutely astounding. When we first started these Gun Rights Policy Conferences, people came and they didn't know anything. I mean, it was like, you know, you're starting at ground zero to educate the gun rights activists and community. Today, we up here learn from you. It's absolutely been amazing. So I think our money's been very, very well spent. And additionally, this year, as last year, which was the first year, being streamed live on Facebook and then being archived, we've passed, at this point, over 100,000 people that have watched this on live stream in their homes. That was our goal, was twofold. One, to beat last year and to bust well over the 100,000, and we have so far. Bearing in mind it's archived, and many, many more people over the coming months are going to be watching it when they you know, go online and find things. I wouldn't be surprised if in total, by the time we're done, we reach 500,000 people. That's several football stadiums. We obviously couldn't afford to rent several football stadiums to put on conferences. So this is really an amazing new outreach for us, and you all being here make all this possible and happen. So I want to thank all of you. I hope I see you next year. We're going to be in Orlando, the third weekend of September. Florida is going to be a battleground state in 2020 elections, and we need to impact that state very heavily. So again, I want to just thank you all, and you are my Second Amendment family, and remember, you're going out of here being Second Amendment first responders. Thank you. One side note for those who might not remember, Safer Home Suicide Aware is going to be having a workshop seminar on suicide prevention at 1:30, I believe it is, in this room, in one quadrant of it. It's a very important issue for us, and so if anybody wants to stand, participate, learn from it, and help, I'd appreciate it, and so do people you know and family members and friends. Thank you.